Chapter 167. The dishes were all very light and suitable for people who had a cold. There was stir-fried fungus with lilies, stir-fried lettuce, broccoli with garlic, cold cucumber with a few drops of sesame oil, and a pot of thick millet porridge. Bailey Han even specially made cola chicken wings and deep-fried drumsticks for Xiao Yi. It had to be said that Bailey Han's cooking was very good. Even the picky Xiao Bao temporarily put aside his prejudice against him and ate with relish. The millet porridge not only warmed Xia Dong's stomach, but also warmed her heart. It was a very happy thing to have someone care about her when she was sick. However, in the next moment she was a little distressed. Bailey Han's care was not something she could accept. Xia Dong was full after eating a bowl of millet porridge, so she put down the bowl and chopsticks. Bailey Han looked at her. "Do you want another bowl?" "No need, I'm full. You can eat slowly." After the meal, Xia Dong wanted to clear the dishes, but Bailey Han stopped her. "Sit down and rest. Remember to take your medicine in half an hour." He looked very professional, so Xia Dong couldn't interfere even if she wanted to. Gigai curled up on the sofa and watched him busy. He seemed to treat housework as a job. He was serious, not allowing the slightest mistake. After washing the pots and pans, he even wiped the kitchen table clean. It had to be said that he looked very charming when he was serious. A man who did housework could also be very charming. Xia Dong supported her head with one hand. She didn't know where her thoughts had run off to. Xiao Bao's soft little body suddenly burrowed into her arms. He whispered, "Mom?" Xia Dong carried him to her side and asked, "Baby, what's the matter?" Xiao Bao's voice was very low as he said mysteriously, "Mom, how did you break up with Bailey Han in the past?" Based on his recent observations, he realized that Bailey Han didn't seem like an irresponsible, bad man. Of course, the most important thing was Xiao Yi's background. It made him more and more unsure if he should continue to hate Bailey Han. So, he wanted to figure out what was going on between his mommy and Bailey Han. Xia Dong glanced at Bailey Han, who was cutting fruits in the kitchen, and said in a low voice, "This is an adult's business. Little brat, don't worry about it." "Mom, I despise you. You always treat me like a 3-year-old. Xiao Bao shouted angrily. Bailey Han could not help but look up at the living room. All right, stop yelling." Xia Dong quickly covered his mouth and whispered, "Xiao Bao, don't let Bailey Han know that you and Xiao Guai are his children. Do you hear me?" Xiao Bao blinked. His eyes were full of questions as if he was asking why. Xia Dong was helpless. She said softly, "Actually, I did something wrong to him in the past. He didn't do anything wrong to me, so you have to treat him better in the future." The fruit platter hit the glass table and made a crisp sound. Bailey Han's voice came from above. "What are you whispering about? Eat some fruit." Xia Dong looked up and smiled dryly. "I'm saying that Xiao Bao should treat you better because you're his elder. Isn't that right, Xiao Bao?" Her hand secretly pinched Xiao Bao lightly. Xiao Bao pouted unwillingly. "That's right, Uncle Bailey." Uncle Bailey, Bailey Han's mouth twitched. Why did he suddenly feel that he was very old? After eating the fruit, Bailey Han sat beside the mother and son. He picked up a newspaper and started reading. He looked like he was going to stay for a long time. 10 minutes passed. Bailey Han was still reading the newspaper seriously. Xia Dong and Xiao Bao looked at each other. Finally, Xia Dong coughed and said, "Bailey Han, aren't you going back to the company in the afternoon?" Bailey Han looked at the newspaper and said calmly, "I've already arranged for the company's matters." "Then you're not busy?" "No." Bailey Han looked up at her. "Are you asking me to leave?" No. Why would I?" Xia Dong waved her hand and smiled. "I just think that you're the big boss of the company. You must have a lot of things to do. It's good that you're not busy, it's good that you're not busy." Xiao Bao rolled her eyes. She despised her mother in her heart. Bailey Han wasn't a monster. Why did she look like she was afraid of him? Bailey Han's lips curled up slightly. He looked at his watch. It was almost time. He poured a glass of warm water and took out some cold medicine. He placed it in front of Xia Dong. "Take the medicine." "Okay." Xia Dong looked like she was going to die a martyr's death. She swallowed the pill. Bailey Han actually took out a chocolate from his pocket and handed it to her. Xia Dong was petrified. Bailey Han felt a little uncomfortable under her stare. He coughed and explained, "Xiaoyi likes to eat chocolate. Actually, he gave this to me." "Oh." Xia Dong peeled the chocolate and stuffed it into her mouth. There were only a few key words left in her mind. Xiaoyi gave it to him. After she took the medicine, he reminded her, "You rest at home. I'm going to the hospital to visit Xiao Guai." "I want to go too." Xia Dong jumped down from the sofa. "Be good." You have a cold now. Who knows if you'll pass the virus to Xiao Guai. Why don't you rest at home and then go to the hospital to visit her? Bailey Han called out to Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao, look after your mommy. Don't let her run around. Xia Dong was unhappy. Hey, what do you mean run around? I'm not a child. Bailey Han chuckled. In my eyes, Xiao Bao is more reliable than you. Xiao Bao nodded seriously. Uncle Bailey, I strongly agree with you on this point. Xia Dong was in tears. She was completely despised by the father and son. In the end, Xia Dong couldn't persuade Bailey Han. Xiao Bao kept pestering her and she didn't go to the hospital to visit Xiao Guai. Bailey Han played with Xiao Guai in the hospital for more than an hour. After she fell asleep, he went to the company. Before he got off work, he called Xia Dong. What do you want to eat tonight? Xia Dong was shocked. He wouldn't come to help her cook again, right? She quickly said, I'll just make some porridge tonight. Don't trouble yourself. Seeing her so fearful, Bailey Han was speechless. Forget it, he'd do as he saw fit. He looked at the time and said, You don't have to make food. I'll buy it on the way and bring it over. I'll be at your place around 6. After work, Bailey Han drove to a private restaurant and took away the food that he had ordered in advance. The fragrant stewed beef brisket with tomatoes, the milky white ginseng chicken soup, and the green vegetables were placed on the table. Xia Dong and Xiao Bao couldn't help but exclaim. It smells so good. Bailey Han smiled when he saw their satisfied expressions. He picked up his jacket and said, Xiao Bao, remember to remind your mommy to take her medicine half an hour after dinner. Perhaps it was because of what Xia Dong said at noon, or because Bailey Han's role as the good guy was too deeply rooted in people's hearts, Xiao Bao's impression of him had changed greatly. He nodded and said, I know. Bailey Han smiled and touched his head. Then he looked at Xia Dong. I'm leaving first. I've already told the hospital. Xia Dong said, Aren't you going to eat with us? His lips curved and his smile became gentler. I promised Xiao Yi that I would go home and have dinner with him every day. Okay. Be careful on the road. Xia Dong walked him to the door. He suddenly put his arm around her shoulders and lowered his head to get closer to her. You, Xia Dong panicked and reached out to push him away. He was very strong. Her struggles were useless in front of him. He continued to get closer to her and kissed her forehead gently. He whispered, Rest well. Don't make me worry. Xia Dong's delicate face flushed red. He chuckled. I like to see you shy. How could he say something so shameless? Her heart pounded. Finally, she blushed and squeezed out 2 words from between her teeth. Pervert, he laughed deeply. His voice was full of pleasure. She glared at him. What are you laughing at? Hurry up and leave. I'll leave immediately. But you have to promise me that you'll remember to miss me. He liked to tease her and see her angry face. As expected, Xia Dong was angry. Bailey Han, I order you to get out of my sight immediately. Was the world going crazy? Bailey Han had always been expressionless. Why was he teasing her so blatantly? Was he possessed by Bailey Yun? Alright, I was just joking. Don't be angry. Bailey Han knew when to stop. He rubbed her hair and smiled warmly. Hurry up and go in. The food will get cold soon. Xia Dong, who felt bullied by him, didn't even say goodbye. She closed the door and leaned against it to calm her nerves that were about to break down. Thanks to Bailey Han's meticulous care, Xia Dong recovered from her cold the next day and continued to live a lively and valiant life. Xiao Guai's illness was also much better. The doctor said that she could be discharged in 2 days. Of course, she still had to undergo chemotherapy on time to control her condition. On the day Xiao Guai was discharged, Xia Dong brought Xiao Bao and Bailey Han brought Xiao Yi. The 4 of them brought her home. Her face was as white as snow. She wore a mask and her small and soft body seemed to have lost a lot of weight. Her pair of beautiful eyes blinked as if they could speak. On the way, Xia Dong felt that something was wrong with Xiao Yi. He sat in the back corner expressionlessly and seemed to be very angry. Xia Dong turned around and whispered to Bailey Han, What's wrong with Xiao Yi? He seems unhappy. Bailey Han also whispered, I'm not sure either. Xia Dong glared at him. How can you be his daddy? He smiled and said half-jokingly, Since you're worried, why don't you be his mommy? It'll make it easier for you to supervise me. Xia Dong couldn't be bothered with him. Xiao Guai, who was in Xia Dong's arms, was so happy that her eyes narrowed into slits. She giggled and said, Mommy, Uncle Bailey, I heard you. Little one, look at how capable you are. Xia Dong was amused and kissed her daughter on the cheek. Bailey Han chuckled. Xiao Guai, do you agree with Uncle Bailey's suggestion? Add Song Shu 566. Chapter 168. Xiao Guai blinked her big beautiful eyes and pondered seriously. But if Mommy becomes Brother Yi's mommy, won't I have to marry Uncle? Xia Dong said nervously. Xiao Guai, don't say any more. Bailey Han glanced at Xiao Guai. Yeah, that's right. Xiao Guai let out an oh, and her next words almost made Bailey Han vomit blood. She said, then I can't agree to it. I want Uncle Shen to be my daddy. Bailey Han's face darkened. Why? Because Uncle Shen loves my mommy a lot. Xia Dong's face darkened. You little brat, what do you know about love? Don't talk nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. Mommy, if you don't believe me, you can ask brother. Xiao Guai turned her little head to look at the back seat and shouted, Brother, am I right? Although their conversation was soft, it couldn't be hidden from Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao, who were sitting in the back seat. Xiao Yi's face darkened and she clenched her fists in anger. Xiao Bao was speechless at their conversation, but he couldn't dampen his sister's spirits, so he could only nod. Look, Mommy. Brother agrees with me. Xia Dong said helplessly, yes, you're the best. Bailey Han was very unhappy. Mika Keto occupied a very important position in the children's hearts. It wasn't easy to defeat him. From the time Xiao Yi went to the hospital to pick up Xiao Guai until the time he and Bailey Han left Xia Dong's house, he didn't say a word or smile. The way he looked at Xia Dong frightened her. It wasn't a look that a 4-year-old child should have. It was filled with deep resentment. Whenever Xia Dong thought of the look in his eyes when he left, she would feel flustered. Could it be that he had discovered something? The next day he told Xia Dong the answer himself. He suddenly appeared alone in front of Xia Dong's house. Xia Dong heard a knock on the door. She opened the door but did not see anyone. Just as she was about to close the door, she heard Xiao Yi's cold voice. I'm downstairs. She lowered her head and indeed saw Xiao Yi standing at the door. His handsome little face was covered with a layer of frost and his dark eyes were staring at her sharply. Xiao Yi, why are you here alone? Xia Dong was surprised and invited him in with a smile. He strode over with his short legs and sat on the sofa obediently. He looked at her coldly. I have something to tell you. Xia Dong poured a glass of fruit juice for him and sat across from him. Xiao Yi, what do you want to tell me? Xiao Yi's eyes revealed a deep resentment and he asked word by word, why did you abandon me? Xia Dong's breathing suddenly stopped and her heart almost stopped beating. She gritted her teeth fiercely and came back to her senses. She forced a smile. Xiao Yi, what are you talking about? Auntie doesn't understand? He suddenly became angry and his little face flushed red. He said fiercely, stop pretending. I've tested our DNA and I know you're my mommy. Xia Dong's head exploded and her body trembled violently. She leaned against the sofa and her face was as pale as snow. I'm asking you, why did you abandon me? In order to get an answer today, he had snuck over to ask her while Daddy was at work. Xia Dong's lips trembled and her face was full of pain. I'm sorry, Xiao Yi. I'm sorry? Xiao Yi jumped off the sofa angrily and walked in front of her. He looked up and stared at her coldly. I want to know the answer. Why did you abandon me? I'm sorry. Xia Dong bent down to hug him. Xiao Yi, I'm sorry. I love you. I didn't abandon you on purpose. I really have my reasons. He couldn't dodge in time and was hugged tightly by her. Her embrace was so fragrant and warm. Every time he was lonely he wanted someone to hug him like this, but she never appeared. Tears welled up in his eyes. Why did you abandon me? Why did you abandon me? Do you know how pitiful it is to be a child without a mommy? I'm sorry. Xia Dong was already sobbing. She hugged him tightly and apologized repeatedly. Why did you abandon me? You're the one who abandoned me. Xiao Yi was full of resentment. I'm the same as Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. We're both your children. How could you treat me like this? How could you treat me like this? Xiao Yi became more and more agitated as he spoke. He finally burst into tears and pounded his chest with his fists. I hate you. I hate you. Xiao Yi, listen to Mommy. Mommy loves you. I really didn't abandon you on purpose. Hearing him say that he hated her, Xia Dong's heart ached so much that her tears fell. I don't believe you anymore. I won't believe you anymore. I hate you. I'll never forgive you. Little Wingzi cried loudly. His tears were like a broken string of pearls as they rolled down his face. His cries were like sharp knives cutting into Xia Dong's heart. She couldn't help but wail. Their cries alerted Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. Xiao Bao walked towards them step by step. He couldn't believe it. "Mommy, is Bailey Yi really your child?" Xia Dong cried even louder. She hugged Xiao Yi tightly in her arms as if this could make up for the 4 years of motherly love she had missed. "Mommy, does this mean that Brother Yi is also my biological brother? Uncle Bailey is our daddy?" It took a long time for Xiao Guai to react. A trace of blood appeared on her pale face as she muttered, "So, big brother and I also have a daddy?" Xiao Yi cried and struggled hard. "Let go of me. I'm never going to talk to you again." "Xiao Yi, I hate you, let go of me." Bailey Yi hammered her arm with all his might, his pair of short legs kicking her forcefully. Xiao Bao widened her eyes in shock and shouted, "Bailey Yi, don't hit mommy. She's pregnant. You'll hurt her and the baby." Bailey Yi stopped kicking, but his cries did not stop. Xia Dong had no choice but to let go of him. His eyes were red and his face was covered in tears. He glared at Xia Dong hatefully. "I'm leaving. I'll never see you again." He ran to the door and tiptoed to open it. Xia Dong chased after him, but his small body shot into the elevator like a cannonball. By the time Xia Dong ran down the stairs, he had already disappeared. Xia Dong was worried and called Bailey Han. In order not to expose the truth, she could only tell him to pay more attention to Xiao Yi's movements. She felt that something was wrong with him. Bailey Han received Xia Dong's call and immediately called the villa. After the butler received the call, he ran upstairs to look for Bailey Yi, but he was nowhere to be seen. The butler anxiously reported, young master is missing. His car is also missing." Bailey Han took his coat and walked out of the office while making a call. He calmly ordered, "Pull up the surveillance video outside the villa and see when he disappeared." By the time Bailey Han returned to the villa, the butler had already ordered a group of servants to go out and look for him. Bailey Han watched the video and found that Xiao Yi ran away from home on his car 2 hours ago. He immediately contacted Xia Dong. "Xia Dong, Xiao Yi ran away from home. I called his cell phone but he didn't answer. Did he contact you?" Xia Dong's pupils suddenly shrank. She hesitated and lied, "Xiao Yi came to my place more than an hour ago. He said that he was here to see Xiao Guai. I saw that his expression was a little strange, so I called you and asked you to pay more attention." "Do you know which direction he went?" Xia Dong said guiltily, "I'm sorry. He left in a hurry. When I went downstairs he was already gone." "It's okay. It's none of your business. Can you let me know if you have any news?" "I'll hang up first." Xiao Yi had only been missing for 2 hours. Even if a police report was filed, the police station would not accept it. Bailey Han used his connections to ask the police chief to pay more attention. Then he mobilized the Dragon Gang's forces to search the entire city for Xiao Yi's whereabouts. Xia Dong anxiously paced back and forth in the room. Xiao Bao couldn't stand it anymore. He pursed his lips and said, "Mom, there's no use for you to be anxious. You have to believe in Bailey Han's ability. You will definitely find Xiao Yi. Moreover, Xiao Yi is so smart. He won't be in any danger." Xia Dong sighed. "I know that he's smart, but no matter how smart he is, he's only a 4-year-old child. If he really meets bad people, how can he fight against them?" Xiao Bao still wanted to persuade her, but she suddenly shook her head and said, "I can't wait any longer. Xiao Bao, do you know where Xiao Yi likes to go?" Xiao Guai raised his arm and said in a childish voice, "Mommy, I know. Brother Yi likes zoos and amusement parks. Gigai is so smart." Xia Dong patted her daughter's head and asked Xiao Bao, "Do you have a different answer?" Xiao Bao thought for a moment. "And the beach." Xia Dong texted the 2 children's guesses to Bailey Han. She also decided to go to the beach to try her luck. Because she was worried that something would happen to Gigai when she wasn't home, Xia Dong armed her to the teeth. She took the 2 children with her to the beach to look for Xiao Yi. The sunset was quiet and calm on the beach in the evening. The sea washed over the beach. From time to time, shells and small fish were stranded on the shore. Xia Dong put a sun hat on Xiao Guai. She carried her and looked around the beach, hoping to find Xiao Yi. Xiao Bao walked beside her and craned his neck from time to time to look here and there. He was also a little anxious. Although he used to hate Bailey Yi, when he found out that Bailey Yi was his brother, his rejection of Bailey Yi lessened a lot. He even slowly began to accept him. "Mom, you and Xiao Bao are over here. I'll go over there and take a look." Xiao Bao pointed at a rocky mountain. "I don't think so. Let's go over together." The rocky mountain looked a little steep. What if Xiao Bao got into an accident? The 3 of them walked over to the rocky mountain. Xia Dong looked at her feet seriously and didn't notice what was in front of her. Suddenly she heard her daughter exclaim, "Hey mommy, isn't that Uncle Lin? Who's the auntie with him?" Welfare Hongcha 866. Chapter 169. Xiaodong looked up and saw a couple walking towards them with their backs to the setting sun. The man was Lin Shihao and the woman was Bai Meiwei. Bai Meiwei was wearing a long white dress, and her long hair was draped over her shoulders. Her long dress swayed gently in the sea breeze. She was very beautiful, like a fairy descending into the mortal world. The two of them had their heads lowered and seemed to be talking about something. They didn't notice Xiaodong and the others. Xiaodong's eyes moved. She carried her daughter with one hand and pulled Xiaobao with the other, and they hid behind a huge rock. The two of them gradually walked towards them. When they passed by the rock, Xiaodong heard their conversation. Bai Meiwei said, "Senior, thank you for coming here with me. I feel much better now." Lin Shihao said, "The patient passed away and the family members are upset. They said a few unpleasant things. Don't take it to heart." Bai Meiwei smiled. "Senior, I really admire you. You don't seem to get angry no matter what happens." Lin Shihao also smiled. "Really? I'm not a god. How can I not be angry?" Bai Meiwei smiled brightly. "You are like a god in my heart. It seems like nothing can stump you." "You're exaggerating." The sound of their conversation gradually faded away. Xiaodong walked out from behind the rock. She felt a little uncomfortable, but she quickly comforted herself. Maybe she was thinking too much. They were just normal friends. "Vixen." Xiaobao puffed up his cheeks and snorted. Xiaobao, don't talk nonsense." "I'm not talking nonsense. That woman is obviously not a good person." Xiaobao hated women who seduced other people's men. So annoying. Xiaodong rubbed his head speechlessly. "Let's hurry and find Xiaoyi." "Mommy, I want to get down. I want to walk on my own." Xiao Guai whined in her arms. "Gigai, it's not easy to walk on the beach. Mommy should carry you." "But I don't want to tire out the little brother in Mommy's stomach." Xiao Guai obediently hugged her neck and said, "Mommy, I promise I'll be careful when I walk." "Mom, let Gigai down." "I'll take care of Gigai," Xiaobao promised as he patted his chest. "All right then. You all have to be careful." Xiaodong put Xiao Guai down and watched as the siblings walked forward hand in hand. They searched the beach for more than half an hour, but they didn't find Xiao Yi. Instead, they bumped into a few men in black. They held Xiao Yi's photo and asked around if anyone had seen this child. Xiaodong knew that they were from Bailey Han. On the other side, Bailey Han also drove to the place where he had gone with Xiao Yi to search, but he didn't find any good news. The sun was about to set. In a park, a child was sitting on a bench with an expressionless face. Beside him was an advanced children's scooter. The phone in his pocket kept ringing, so he finally turned it off. "Hey little brat, is this scooter yours? Lend me your scooter to play with." A group of 7 or 8-year-old children walked over with their arms around each other's shoulders. The tallest child among them asked arrogantly. Xiao Yi was in a bad mood and didn't want to pay attention to them. He coldly looked at them and didn't answer. "Hey little brat, our boss is talking to you. Why don't you answer? Are you mute?" Xiao Yi coldly snorted. His eyes were full of disdain. "Hey this damn brat, are you looking for a beating? Su'er, drag his scooter to me." The child who was called boss was angry. Xiao Yi jumped off the bench and stood in front of his scooter. He coldly said, "Get lost." The child called Su'er shouted, "Brat, you have no manners. You must have a mother who gave birth to you and didn't teach you." Xiao Yi was poked in his wound. His anger flared up. His eyes were like sharp knives. He stared at the child who spoke and clenched his fists. "Say that again if you have the guts." "Humph, you little brat, you still want to teach me a lesson?" "I'll say it again. Do you think I don't dare? I said you have no manners. You have a mother who gave birth to you and didn't teach you." There were a total of 5 people. Each of them was taller and stronger than Xiao Yi. They didn't put this little brat in their eyes. "Go to hell." Xiao Yi angrily rushed forward. Although he was small, he was very strong. He had learned a few moves from the bodyguards at home. He punched and kicked Su'er. Su'er was kicked in the stomach and cried out in pain. "Boss, this damn brat is quite powerful." The child next to him interjected, "Should we help Su'er? Isn't that nonsense? Let's all go together and teach this stinking brat a lesson." The 5 children rushed forward together. Xiao Yi was surrounded in the middle. He was like an enraged little beast. He stared at them fiercely. The hatred in his eyes made the child closest to him tremble. He subconsciously took a step back. "You are too useless. You are afraid of this little brat. The leader of the children slapped the head of the cowardly child. He was the first to rush forward. He bent down and grabbed Xiao Yi's clothes. He fiercely said, "Brat, you hurt my brother. I will teach you a lesson." Bah! Xiao Yi spat on his face. "I am so angry." The leader of the children wiped the saliva on his face and slapped Xiao Yi's cheek. Little Wingzi tilted his head and dodged the man's slap. Little Wingzi then kicked the man's leg. The man cried out in pain and shouted at the 4 people who were still in a daze, "Don't just stand there." Oh! The 5 of them grabbed Xiao Yi's arms, legs, and directly hugged him from behind. Slaps and fists fell like raindrops. "Little brat, quickly beg us for mercy. We will let you go." Xiao Yi's face was bruised, but his expression was stubborn. He didn't let them go. His eyes were sharp and cold. He couldn't wait to pounce on them and bite them to death. "What are you doing? Let him go." Suddenly there was a fierce roar. The 5 children looked up and saw a woman running towards them with a face full of anger. They immediately let go of Xiao Yi and ran away like a swarm of bees. After returning from the beach, Xia Dong drove to a few more places, but she couldn't find Xiao Yi. She was about to go crazy from anxiety. In the end, she saw Xiao Guai leaning against the chair and falling asleep. She had no choice but to take the children home. When she passed by the park, she suddenly had an idea. This was very close to her neighborhood, so Xiao Yi might be here. Thus, she parked the car by the roadside and asked Xiao Bao to take care of the sleeping Xiao Guai. She ran in to try her luck. Unexpectedly, she saw a group of children bullying Xiao Yi from afar, so she rushed over to scold them. She didn't expect to see Xiao Yi with a face full of injuries. "Xiao Yi, don't be afraid. I will take you to the hospital right away." Xia Dong's heart almost stopped beating. She pounced on him to hug him, but he pushed her away. He said coldly, "Go away. I don't need you to care about me." Xia Dong's nose twitched. She choked and said, "Do you know that because you went missing we were all very worried? Your daddy is still looking for you everywhere. How can you be so willful?" He said coldly, "I'm willful? That's because I was born to a mother and raised by no mother." His words were like a sharp knife stabbing into her body, and it hurt her to the core. Tears welled up in her eyes and she dug her nails into her palms. "Okay, you can hate me. But if you are so willful, how can you face daddy who loves you? Xiao Yi, Gigai, listen to me and let me take you to the hospital, okay?" She said the last sentence almost in a pleading tone. His dark eyes moved and he stared deeply into her quietly crying eyes. His heartless words cut into her heart. "You have never cared about me since I was born. I don't want you to care about me now, and I don't want you to care about me in the future. I will treat it as if my mommy is already dead." Tears streamed down her face. He flung her hand away and walked to his scooter. Just as he was about to step onto the scooter, Xia Dong rushed over and quickly picked him up. "Let go of me, let go of me." Xiao Yi struggled and screamed. He even bit her arm with his teeth, but he didn't kick her. "I won't let go. I won't let go. Even if you hate me, I will take you to the hospital," Xia Dong said as she walked quickly with Xiao Yi in her arms. Xiao Yi was much heavier than Xiao Guai. When they reached the entrance of the park, Xia Dong was already tired, but she still gritted her teeth and carried him to her car. "Bao Bao, I will put Xiao Yi in the back seat. Look after him." Xia Dong put Xiao Yi in the back seat and instructed Xiao Bao. Xiao Yi was in a sorry state. His face was injured and the corner of his mouth was red and swollen. Xiao Bao's pupils contracted when he saw him like this. He desperately grabbed onto him as he tried to escape and said angrily, "Don't be so childish, okay? Behave yourself." The car door slammed shut and Xia Dong started the car. Xiao Yi wanted to escape but he didn't have the chance. He gradually calmed down. Xiao Bao sighed in relief and poked his arm with his finger. There was concern in his voice that even he didn't notice. "What happened to your injuries? Did you get into a fight with someone?" Little Wingzi hissed in pain when his finger poked Little Wingzi's arm. Xiao Bao quickly retracted his finger. "Is your arm hurt too?" Xiao Yi made a soft sound and turned his little face away awkwardly. He didn't want to talk to him. Xiao Bao's eyes darted around. He suddenly thought of something and dug around in his little backpack. He pulled out a tube of ointment, twisted the cap and said, "Turn your head around." Xiao Yi snorted and ignored him. "I told you to turn your head around. You're so awkward." Xiao Bao didn't dare to casually pull him for fear of touching his wound. However, Xiao Yi didn't want to cooperate, so he had no choice but to be magnanimous and move to the other side of him. He applied some ointment on the ointment with his small finger and reached out to Xiao Yi's eyes. Xiao Yi frowned. What are you trying to do? Welfare Xingwu 799. Chapter 170. Xiao Bao rolled his eyes. You're stupid. Isn't it obvious that I'm going to help you apply medicine? Don't move. Xiao Yi's eyes flickered, but he really didn't dodge. Xiao Bao was very serious as he gently rubbed the medicine on his wound bit by bit. Xia Dong saw through the rearview mirror that Xiao Bao was applying medicine for Xiao Yi, and Xiao Yi didn't struggle or resist. Her mood instantly improved. No matter what, there was still affection between the two children. Xiao Yi wouldn't be so lonely in the future. Bailey Han quickly arrived at the hospital. Xia Dong and the others were sitting on a bench in the corridor. The injuries on Xiao Yi's face had already been treated. The corner of his mouth was the most serious, red and swollen. The sleeves of both of his arms were rolled up high, revealing patches of bruises and bruises. His heart ached and he was angry. It took him a long time to control his anger. He asked in a low voice, "Why did you run away from home?" Xiao Yi hung his head. "I didn't run away from home. I just wanted to have some peace and quiet outside before going home." Peace and quiet. Bailey Han didn't know whether to laugh or cry at his mature thinking. He frowned and said, "How did you end up like this? Did you get into a fight with someone?" "Yeah." He was honest and admitted his guilt. Bailey Han looked stern. "Why did you get into a fight?" Xiao Yi looked up at him. His eyes were covered with a layer of mist. "They wanted to take my scooter and said that I was a child who had a mother but didn't raise her." Bailey Han's belly full of reprimanding words were all blocked. His throat was unbearably dry. Xia Dong wasn't any better. Her heart was full of bitterness. Bailey Han was silent for a while. He raised his hand and patted Xiao Yi's head. "Don't get into fights again. You don't have a mother but you still have Daddy. Don't make Daddy worry again, okay?" "Uh-huh." Xiao Yi nodded. The tears in her eyes fell onto her lap and onto Xia Dong's heart. "Good girl." Bailey Han held him in his arms and carefully avoided his wound. He said softly, "Daddy will take you home." Xiao Yi lay in Bailey Han's arms and replied softly, Bailey Han looked at Xia Dong and said, "Xia Dong, I'll take Xiao Yi home first. I'm very grateful for what you did today." Xia Dong stood up and forced a smile. "You're welcome. We're going back too. Take good care of Xiao Yi." The next day Xia Dong called Bailey Han to ask about Xiao Yi. Bailey Han's voice sounded a little gloomy. "Xiao Yi caught a cold after coming back last night." Xia Dong hesitated for a moment. "Can I go over to see him?" "Of course. I happen to be busy this morning and can't take care of him. I'll have to trouble you to take care of him on my behalf." Bailey Han was very happy to see her and Xiao Yi getting along well. Xia Dong sent Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao to her aunt's house and went to the supermarket to buy a lot of things. By the time she drove to Bailey's house, it was already past 10 o'clock. The sun was shining brightly and she was sweating profusely as she wrung the things at the front door. The butler found out from Bailey Han that Xia Dong was coming and was already waiting at the door. When he saw her, he hurried over and helped her carry the things. "Miss Xia, it's good that you're here. Why did you buy so many things?" Xia Dong smiled. "They're all fresh vegetables and fruits. Come in quickly. Too hot outside." The butler asked a servant to ring the things and invited Xia Dong in. He also served her fresh fruit juice. "Butler, how's Xiao Yi doing now?" "Little master had a high fever last night. Dr. Su gave him an 4 drip and his fever went down this morning. He's sleeping soundly now." "Can I go up and see him?" "Of course. Miss Xia, this way please." The butler had already received orders from Bailey Han that no matter what requests Xia Dong had, he had to satisfy her. This was the first time Xia Dong had walked into Xiao Yi's room in the villa. It was similar to the room in the old mansion. Other than the height of the furniture, it was decorated a little like an adult's room. Even the bedding was dark and did not look like a child's room at all. Xia Dong immediately felt that Bailey Han was a failure as a father. From her expression, the butler could sense her dissatisfaction. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Miss Xia, the room's layout was actually ordered by Little Master. It doesn't look like a child's room. Their Little Master was a famous little old man. Miss Xia, I'll go down first. Take your time to look around." On the bed Xiao Yi was curled up into a small ball. It was a position where he did not feel safe. There was an uneasy expression on his face. His handsome eyebrows were knitted together and his thin lips were tightly pursed. He looked like he was suffering in his sleep. "Xiao Yi." Xia Dong did not dare to speak too loudly for fear of waking him up. She softly called his name and gently stroked his eyebrows with her fingers. Mommy. Mommy. You seem to be having a nightmare. Suddenly, a frightened expression appeared on his face and he muttered, Mommy? Don't abandon me. Xiaodong held his hand and said softly, Baby, Mommy is here. Mommy won't abandon you. I won't abandon you. Xiaoyi seemed to hear her comforting voice and gradually calmed down. Xiaodong bit her lip and used her other hand to pull the blanket up a little to cover him. When she wanted to quietly pull her hand out, Xiaoyi moved his body uneasily. She could only let him hold her hand. She stroked her son's hair and softly sang a nursery rhyme. His breathing gradually stabilized and he fell into a deep sleep. Just like that, more than an hour passed. When it was almost lunchtime, Xiaodong gently pulled her hand out of her son's and quietly walked out of the room. The moment she pulled her hand out, Xiaoyi woke up. When he opened his eyes, he happened to see her getting up and leaving. Was she going to abandon him again? This thought surged in his mind. His chest felt like it was going to explode. He turned his back to her and quietly cried. Xiaodong stood at the door. She took one last look at Xiaoyi and gently closed the door. In the kitchen downstairs, the chef was busy. When he saw Xiaodong come in, he hurriedly said, Miss Xia, quickly go out. The smell of cooking oil is too strong here. Xiaodong smiled. Leave lunch to me today. The chef was stunned. How can this be? You're a guest? Xiaodong snatched the kitchen knife from his hand. I'm here to take care of Xiaoyi today. I'm not a guest. The chef had no choice but to let her have the kitchen. When she went out, she bumped into the butler. Just as she was about to say something, the butler shushed her and said in a low voice, Young master agreed to this. You can go do other things. The butler had a deep understanding of Bailey Han's thinking. When Xiaodong came out of the kitchen, there was not a single servant in the villa. It was as if only she and Xiaoyi were left. Although Xiaodong felt that it was a little strange, she did not think too much about it. After washing her hands, she went upstairs to call Xiaoyi for lunch. Xiaoyi was lying on the bed with his back to the door. She called out to him softly. She didn't leave? Xiaoyi tensed up and pricked up his ears. He heard her approach the bed and sit down beside him. She gently stroked his hair. Xiaoyi, get up and eat. You can sleep after eating, okay? His body froze and he turned around to look at her. His dark eyes were filled with complicated emotions. Be good. Get up and eat. Xiaodong carried him from the bed and smiled gently. Do you want me to carry you downstairs or do you want to walk downstairs yourself? He was very greedy for her embrace, but he still pushed her away and said coldly, I said I don't want to see you. She was very hurt, but the smile on her face did not change. I'll leave after you finish eating. Xiaoyi, don't hurt your body because you're angry with me, okay? He looked at her quietly and she looked at him quietly. Finally, he turned his face away and said coldly, I want to get out of bed. Okay, I'll get some clothes for you. Xiaodong put him down on the bed and took a jacket from the changing room for him to put on. When they went downstairs, he walked in front of her with his head held high and his chest out. He walked carefully step by step. Although most of the dishes on the table were vegetarian, they were all his favorite dishes. The sour cold fern root powder whetted his appetite as soon as it entered his mouth. She had also made fragrant and sweet corn porridge. After the meal there was also a small dessert, stewed double-skin milk. However, she had only prepared a small portion, so he didn't eat to his heart's content at all. Seeming to know his dissatisfaction, she smiled and explained, You're sick, so you shouldn't eat too much. I'll make a few more desserts later and put them in the fridge. You can eat them at night, but you can't eat too much. It's not good for your health if you eat too much at night. He curled his lips coldly. Okay, I got it. You're so long-winded. She smiled and let him play in the living room for a while. She cleared the table and was about to wash it when a maid appeared out of nowhere and said, Miss Xia, I'll wash it. Okay, I'll have to trouble you then. Xiaodong didn't stand on ceremony and went to the living room to accompany Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi sat on the sofa and watched the television, ignoring her existence. She took the chessboard over and said, Xiaoyi, play chess with me, okay? He looked at her coldly. Do you know how to play chess? She smiled sheepishly. It's such a high IQ game. Of course, I don't. Then what do you want to play? Actually, she didn't want to play chess at all. She just wanted to get closer to him. She blinked. Gamoku. He sneered. Boring. She laughed dryly. That's true. Forget it then. He took the black stones nonchalantly. I'll take the white stones and you take the black stones. You go first. Oh, okay. The corners of Xiaodong's lips curled up slightly. The mother and son pair laid on the small table and started to play chess. The black stones had a great advantage, but Xiaodong still couldn't beat Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi mocked her. "You're so stupid. I already have 3 stones here. Why don't you block me? Instead, you're wasting your stones here?" Xiao Yi is so smart. Xiaodong wasn't angry at all. Instead, she smiled and praised him. He snorted coldly, and his ears were tinged with a faint pink color. After playing chess for more than an hour, Xiaodong urged Xiao Yi to take his medicine and wanted to send him upstairs for an afternoon nap. He refused. He had slept for so long in the morning and didn't want to sleep anymore. Welfare Songshu 566. Chapter 171. She had planned to go to the kitchen to make dessert while he was taking a nap. Since he didn't want to sleep, she bent down and asked him, "I'm going to make cookies and cakes. Do you want to help?" He curled his lips coolly with a look of disdain. "No." Xiaodong didn't take it to heart. She smiled and said, "Then you play by yourself. I'm going to the kitchen." Xiaodong first inspected the villa's kitchen. The ovens, cake molds, biscuit molds, egg splitters, measuring cups, and other utensils needed to make cakes and biscuits were all very complete. Coupled with the other ingredients she had bought, it was very easy to make delicious cakes and biscuits. First, she planned to make Xiao Yi's favorite chocolate chestnut cake. She cut the butter and dark chocolate into small pieces and put them into a bowl with fine sugar and milk. She heated it over water and stirred it continuously until it completely melted and turned into a liquid. Then she beat the eggs and poured them into the chocolate mixture. She mixed them evenly, then added flour, cocoa powder, and baking powder, and mixed them evenly into cake batter. She put the batter into a grinding tool and baked it for later use. Next, she made the chestnut cream filling. Sifting the chestnuts was a very time-consuming task. Xiaodong worked for about half an hour before she finished sifting the ripe chestnuts into chestnuts. She sighed deeply and rubbed her aching waist. She inadvertently looked up and saw Xiao Yi standing at the kitchen door. When their eyes met, Xiao Yi felt as though someone had caught her in a pigtail. She guiltily tried to cover up and said coldly, "I'm afraid you'll blow up the kitchen, so I'm here to keep an eye on you." Xiaodong grinned. "Okay, you're welcome to keep an eye on me." She lowered her head and continued working. After she finished making the chestnut cream filling, she put it into the floral tape. She cut a hole in the floral tape and squeezed the chestnut cream filling onto the cake. She carefully handled every step and didn't notice that Xiao Yi, who was originally standing at the door to keep an eye on her, had disappeared. Then a glass of fresh lemon juice suddenly appeared near her right hand. She looked down at Xiao Yi by her feet. Xiao Yi pouted and raised her chin coolly. "If you blow up the kitchen, you can use this glass of lemon juice to put out the fire." Xiaodong smiled, but she didn't expose him. "If the kitchen didn't explode, I would have drunk this glass of lemon juice in order not to waste it." He snorted. "That's your business. You don't have to report to me. I'm going out to play." "Wait a moment." Xiaodong quickly cut a small piece of cake and put it on a plate. She took a fork and squatted in front of him. "Supervisor, the cake is ready. Try it first." The aroma of the freshly baked cake wafted in the air. He, who liked sweets, was immediately attracted by the cake on the plate. However, he was unwilling to show his liking in front of her. He turned his face away and said, "I'm still very full. I don't want to eat." "It's okay. I'll leave it for now and eat it when you're hungry." Xiaodong put the plate back on the table with a smile. "Next, I'm going to make a nice and delicious snack, purple potato balls. Supervisor, do you want to continue to supervise here?" "It's none of your business," Xiao Yi said coldly. He didn't even look at her. He straightened his chest and walked out of the kitchen. Xiaodong watched his short figure disappear at the door and smiled bitterly. However, when her gaze landed on the glass of lemon juice, her heart warmed a little. Compared to making chocolate chestnut cake, making purple potato balls was much easier. Purple potato balls were suitable for eating immediately. If they were left for too long, they wouldn't taste good. She only fried a small plate for Xiao Yi's afternoon snack. Then she wrapped the rest of the purple potato dough in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge. She planned to tell the chef to make it for Xiao Yi in the future before she left. Looking at the time, it was only 4 in the afternoon. It was still early. She made a simple salty biscuit, black sesame seaweed biscuit. Finally, she made mango glutinous rice paste and put it in the fridge. When Bailey Han came back from work, it would be ready to eat. It was to repay him for taking care of her when she was sick. After doing all this, Xiaodong washed her hands. She carried the plate of chocolate chestnut cake and freshly squeezed apple juice to the living room. She didn't see Xiaoyi. After thinking about it, she asked the maid to send it upstairs on her behalf. Xiaoyi hated her. If she sent it upstairs, he might refuse. "Miss Xia, you're leaving already? Aren't you going to say goodbye to the young master?" When Xia Dong packed up and was about to leave, the butler appeared at the right time. "No need. I'm just here to see him today. I'm relieved to see that he's getting better. Uncle Li, please take good care of him." After saying the last sentence, Xia Dong felt that she had misspoken. Butler Li would naturally take good care of Xiaoyi. She had no right to ask, so she smiled apologetically. "Uncle Li, I didn't mean anything else." "I understand, Miss Xia." Uncle Li was a kind person. He smiled kindly and said, "I know Miss Xia is sincerely looking out for the young master. The sun is still very hot outside. You should rest for a while before leaving." "No, I have to go home to take care of the children." "Uncle Li, thank you for your hospitality." Xia Dong was grateful that he deliberately gave her the opportunity to be alone with Xiao Yi. The maid sent the cake and drinks to Xiao Yi's room. He asked expressionlessly, "Why isn't she coming up?" The maid was stunned for a moment before she reacted. "Young master, Miss Xia is leaving." Xiao Yi jumped down from the chair and ran to the stairs. He happened to see Xia Dong saying goodbye to the butler and then walking towards the garage under the scorching sun. There was a hint of struggle in his eyes. In the end, he gritted his teeth and ran back to his room without looking back. The cake was soft, fragrant, and sweet. It tasted very good. After eating one piece, he couldn't help but want to eat a second piece. However, the maid refused to cut the cake for him. "Young master, Miss Xia instructed before she left that you can't eat too much dessert. Otherwise, you won't be able to eat dinner tonight." Xiao Yi's face darkened and he didn't say anything. "Although you can't eat cake anymore, Miss Xia still prepared purple potato balls for you." The maid brought over a small plate of purple potato balls. It was really a very small stack. Xiao Yi counted and there were only 5 in total. After Xiao Yi ate one, his eyes immediately became heart-shaped. It was too delicious. Unfortunately, it was very little. The maid seemed to see his regret. She smiled and said, when Miss Xia left, she had already refrigerated the purple potato balls. "If you like them, the chef can make more for you tomorrow." Xiao Yi suddenly pushed the empty plate away and said coldly, "Don't mention her in front of me in the future." What was she doing now? Was she trying to make it up to him? Did she think that he would forgive her if she treated him a little better? Bailey Han deliberately got off work early and went home early. However, he still missed Xia Dong, so he was a little upset. The butler observed his expression and took out the mango glutinous rice paste from the fridge. He put it on a snow-white plate and placed it in front of him. "Young master, Miss Xia specially asked me to leave this for you." Bailey Han's lips immediately curled up. He didn't really like sweets, but because she made it, it was full of temptation in his eyes. He picked up a glutinous rice paste and took a small bite. The glutinous rice paste was fragrant and soft, and the sweetness was very light. It wasn't greasy at all and it was cold to the touch. It spread from his mouth to his stomach. He took a second bite and there was the sweetness of mango. He frowned. "There's mango?" The butler was shocked. "I'm sorry, young master. I didn't know it was mango flavored." Bailey Han said lightly, "It's okay." He took another bite. The butler was so anxious that he stomped his feet. "Young master, you're allergic to mangoes. Don't eat it." Bailey Han acted as if he didn't hear him. He finished the glutinous rice paste in his hand and reached out for the rest on the plate. The butler was so excited that he wanted to snatch the plate, but under his sharp gaze he could only give up on the idea. The butler watched him eat the glutinous rice paste without batting an eyelid and tears streamed down his face. It's over, it's over. Young master will definitely be allergic." Bailey Han quickly finished the remaining 3 glutinous rice paste on the plate. As the butler expected, in less than 10 minutes, he had a red rash all over his body, including his face. His lips were swollen and his handsome image was completely ruined. The next day, Xia Dong called the villa. It was the butler who picked up. "Uncle Li, has Xiao Yi recovered from his cold?" The butler sighed. "Young master's illness has recovered, but young master is sick again." Xia Dong was shocked. "What's wrong with Bailey Han?" The butler hesitated for a moment and said, "Young master is allergic to mangoes." Xia Dong immediately thought of the mango glutinous rice paste she made and felt bad. She had done it out of kindness, but she didn't expect that it would harm him. "Is it serious?" "He has a red rash all over his body and it's very itchy. Although he took anti-allergy medicine, the rash still hasn't subsided." Xia Dong felt even more guilty. Is he at home today? Yes, young master can't go to the company in his current state. If young master, who had a red rash and a sausage mouth, went to the company, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. His image as a Prince Charming would be completely ruined. Xia Dong was so ashamed that she couldn't show her face. Uncle Li, is there anything else he's allergic to or doesn't like? Please let me know. Young master is allergic to mangoes and peaches. He doesn't like sweets. He's fine with other things, but he has high standards for taste. Young Master Bailey's mouth was picky, and this was a well-known fact in the Bailey family. Okay, I got it. Thank you. Xia Dong was responsible for the trouble she caused. She specially consulted the doctor and spent more than 2 hours making a pot of rock sugar white fungus soup. She specially sent it to Bailey Han's house. When she saw Bailey Han, she almost didn't recognize him. He was wearing a long shirt and trousers to cover the red rash on his body, but the rash on his face was completely exposed. The red and swollen lips had subsided a lot, but he still looked funny, a little like Liang Chao's sausage mouth in East Meets West. Attention Hongcha 866. Chapter 172. Xia Dong came with a heart of remorse, but when she saw him like this, her shoulders couldn't help but tremble suspiciously. Bailey Han was calm and said mildly, "If you think it's funny, then don't hold it in." I'm sorry. Xia Dong hurriedly covered her mouth and tried her best to hold back her laughter. It took a lot of effort for her to disperse the laughter. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were allergic to mangoes. She embarrassedly placed the food box on the table. I made rock sugar white fungus soup to apologize to you. I know you don't like sweets, so I put very little sugar in it. He watched as she scooped the white fungus soup from the food box into a small bowl and said mildly, "It has nothing to do with you. It's me. After I found out that the filling was mangoes, I ate it all." Xia Dong felt like she had been fooled by him. Her tone was a little harsh. "Why did you finish it? You know you're allergic to it." He said mildly, "You made this especially for me. I didn't want to waste it." Xia Dong froze. The small bowl in her hand felt heavy. She had mixed feelings and couldn't help but say, "You're crazy. Are you going to swallow the arsenic that I gave you?" "If you want me to swallow it, I will." He smiled. Although his face was covered in rashes, Xia Dong felt that he was as handsome as before. Her nose twitched as if she had choked on chili. Xia Dong placed the small bowl in front of him and grabbed her bag to leave. "I have something to do. I'll leave first." Just as she took 2 steps, her wrist was grabbed. His voice was mellow and magnetic. "Xia Dong, I'm very happy that you came to see me. Bailey Han, don't misunderstand. I only came to see you because I feel guilty." Xia Dong hurriedly distanced herself from him, afraid that he would have any ideas. "Even so, I'm still very happy." Bailey Han approached her and hugged her from behind. She was shocked and struggled violently. He whispered, "Don't move. Let me hug you for a while." Only a fool wouldn't move. Xia Dong was anxious and angry. She struggled and said in a low voice, "Bailey Han, don't mess around. If someone sees us, let me go." He chuckled. "You mean as long as no one sees me, I can fool around, right?" As he spoke, his hands had already moved to her abdomen. His palms gently covered it. Although he couldn't feel the baby's movements, his heart softened. He really wanted to know what their baby would look like when it was born. Would it look like her or him? His hand landed on her abdomen, so she didn't dare to move. She was afraid that he would use too much force and hurt the baby. She gritted her teeth and said, "Bailey Han, when did you become so shameless? Let me go." He said in a low voice, "If I'm not shameless, how can I trap you?" Her body froze. After a moment of silence, she said coldly, "Bailey Han, I thought I made myself clear enough. I'm Mika Kito's fiancé. If you want to flirt, please find someone else." Anger surged from his heart. His voice became low and cold. "Do you want to get involved with Mika Kito so badly?" She laughed coldly. "I'm his fiancé. There's no need to pull strings. I know that your engagement is fake. Don't use this reason to brush me off in the future, okay? Xia xia?" He suddenly moved closer to her ear and used an extremely ambiguous posture and tone to slowly whisper into her ear. "Xia xia." He had wanted to call her that for a long time. Xia Dong was silent for a long time. Then she said seriously, "Bailey Han, let's talk." In the study they sat facing each other. Xia Dong lowered her eyes and said slowly, "Because of my parents, I don't believe that love can last forever, and I don't believe that marriage can last a lifetime. So, I'm not a fan of marriage. Her father had abandoned her and her mother to marry Su Murong and give birth to Su Xingqian. Her mother had set fire to herself and died when she was in the 6th grade of primary school. This was the information that Bailey Han understood. He frowned slightly. Your father's actions don't represent all men. Why don't you give me a chance and give yourself a chance? She looked up at him and laughed mockingly. What do you like about me? In my opinion, your love for me is only temporary. After that, you'll definitely abandon me like Su Yunqian. Anger rose in Bailey Han's heart. How do you know that my feelings for you are only temporary? How can you be sure that it's my fault for breaking up with Su Yunqian? That I'm fickle in love with the new and hate the old? All right then, I'll give you a chance to refute. Bailey Han's pupils suddenly shrank. He didn't want to publicize Su Yunqian's wrongdoings, but at the same time he didn't want to be misunderstood by her. After deliberating over his words, he said, I used to love Yunqian deeply, but she's become more and more unrecognizable to me. Some of her actions hurt the people I care about and destroyed my trust in her. Xia Dong sneered. Then I'll congratulate you. Soon, you'll realize that the real me is not the same person as what you think and what you see on the surface. I'm also good at pretending, and I'll hurt the people you care about. When that time comes, you'll abandon me without hesitation. Bailey Han blurted out, That's different. Her gaze was sharp. How is it different? He was speechless for a moment and didn't know how to answer. She laughed mockingly. See, you're not sure either, Bailey Han. You can't give me a long-term love and marriage. Putting aside your own factors, your family won't accept me first. Bailey's family hated her to the core. How could they agree to him marrying her? This was a fact that should have been made clear to him earlier so that he would give up on the idea. His face was gloomy, as if he was thinking, but also as if he was angry. She got up to leave, but he didn't ask her to stay. When she reached the door of the study, he suddenly said, Xia Dong, the only person I want to grow old with now is you. Her back was facing him and her heart trembled. An inexplicable emotion surrounded her, but she didn't turn around. She walked out of the study and out of the villa. The house was empty. She didn't meet anyone and she didn't see Xiaoyi either. She didn't know why, but her heart felt a little empty. Xia Dong reflected on herself. During this period of time, she had been too close to Bailey Han, but she didn't expect trouble to come knocking on her door so quickly. The next day, old madam knocked on her door with a gloomy face. Xiao Bao could tell that something was wrong. Worried that her mother would be taken advantage of, the first thing she did after returning to her room was to call Bailey Han and inform him. Then she hid at the living room door to eavesdrop. You went to Ahan's villa yesterday and the day before. Old madam went straight to the point. You seem to have turned a deaf ear to my words and never took them to heart. Xia Dong said mildly, I'm sorry. It's my fault this time. It won't happen again. Old madam's expression was ugly. Xia Dong, you know that I don't want an apology. I want action. Back then, you and I signed an agreement that if we had a boy, he would be raised by the Bailey family, and if we had a girl, you would take her away. You were the one who played tricks and escaped to Japan. Ahan also got into a car accident because of you and almost lost his life. Forget it. I don't want to be calculative with you over these past events. Back then, when I brought Xiao Yi back to the Bailey family, you promised me that you wouldn't get close to Xiao Yi and that you wouldn't come back to disturb Ahan's life. You kept going back on your word, and I can't trust you anymore. Xia Dong's heart tightened. What happened to Bailey Han's car accident? Old madam snorted coldly. Wasn't it because you didn't want to give the child to the Bailey family and escape to Japan? Ahan got into a car accident on the way to the airport to chase after you. Xia Dong's heart sank. She really didn't expect that Bailey Han's car accident was because of her. I'm sorry, I really didn't know. Xia Dong murmured painfully. I didn't leave because I didn't want to give the child to the Bailey family. I left because I don't want to know the reason. Old madam interrupted her. I won't believe anything you say anymore. Xia Dong, I'll give you 1 month. I want you to get married to Mika Kito within this month and break Ahan's heart. If you don't get married, I'll take away Xiao Yi's inheritance rights and send him to England. He won't be allowed to step into the Bailey family's door for the rest of his life. I won't let you and your son see each other for the rest of your life. You can't treat Xiao Yi like this. He's also a descendant of the Bailey family. Our Bailey family needs obedient and loyal descendants. We don't need a descendant with a lowly mother like you. Xia Dong felt like her heart was being cut by a knife. She thought old madam loved Xiao Yi very much, but she didn't expect her to be so selfish. If you marry Mika Kito and Gigai and cut off all contact with Ahan and Xiao Yi, Xiao Yi will still be my precious great-grandson and will have the absolute inheritance rights of the family. Xia Dong as his mother, all you can give him is scandal and humiliation. Don't you think about his future? Old Madam seemed to be speaking earnestly, but in fact, every word she said was trampling on Xia Dong's self-esteem. She was already full of guilt toward Xiao Yi, so she could only give him what she thought was best from a mother's point of view. Xia Dong closed her eyes and said, "Okay, I agree to your conditions. However, you have to promise me that no matter who Bailey Han marries in the future or how many children he has, you can't mistreat Xiao Yi because you favor them." Old Madam said coldly, "Of course. If you don't exist, Xiao Yi will always be my most beloved great-grandson." As their negotiation came to an end, the doorbell suddenly rang. Xia Dong didn't expect Bailey Han to suddenly appear. His allergic symptoms had subsided and he had regained his usual handsome face. However, at this moment, his expression was serious and anxious. He put his hands on her shoulders and asked nervously, "Are you okay?" Old Madam heard the sound and walked over from the living room. She snorted coldly and said, "What can happen to her? Why did you suddenly come here?" She looked at Xia Dong suspiciously. "Did you inform him?" Beauty novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 173. That's not it. It has nothing to do with Xia Dong. Bailey Han denied flatly. He turned his body and stood in front of Xia Dong. "Grandma, what did you talk about with Xia Dong?" The old madam's voice was stern. "It doesn't matter what I talked about with her. What's important is that you're not allowed to see her again. Look at how she has led you astray." Bailey Han glanced at the pale-faced Xia Dong and held her by the shoulders. He was domineering and irresistible. There was a determined look on his handsome face. "Grandma, I love Xia Dong. I want to marry her." Xia Dong's body froze. She was overwhelmed with shock. Her heart was in a mess and she didn't know what to do. The old madam stabbed her walking stick into the ground. She looked sharply at Xia Dong and said sternly, "Even if I die, I won't allow her to enter Bailey's house." Bailey Han's deep eyes were like a storm. He clenched his fists and the veins on the back of his hands were throbbing. He seemed to have suppressed his anger to the extreme. His thin lips moved and he said angrily, "Grandma, if you insist on not accepting Xia Dong, I will sever all ties with Bailey's family. She wants to marry me, not Bailey's family." Xia Dong turned her head abruptly and stared at him in disbelief. No, things shouldn't be like this. His feelings for her were only temporary. He wouldn't marry her and he wouldn't fight against his family for her. The old madam was furious. Her fingers trembled as she pointed at his nose and scolded him, "You unfilial son. I raised you for nothing. How dare you say such disgraceful things for a woman? Good, very good. I'll beat you to death now so that you don't anger our family to death." The old madam picked up her walking stick and swung it at Bailey Han. Seeing that Bailey Han was standing there foolishly, Xia Dong instinctively threw herself at him and blocked the walking stick. A heavy blow landed on the back of her shoulder, causing her to hiss in pain as she sucked in a few breaths of cold air. Bailey Han hugged her anxiously. Xia, are you alright? Why are you so silly? Why did you block it for me?" Xia Dong smiled bitterly. What? Even she didn't know why. By the time she reacted, she was already on top of him. The old madam's expression. She didn't expect that Xia Dong would block the blow. Xia, let me take a look at your injury." Bailey Han held her waist and wanted to check her injury, but she grabbed his hand. "Old madam, Mr. Bailey, as the party involved, I would like to say something." Xia Dong's expression was indifferent. "I've never thought of marrying into the Bailey's family, so the issue you're arguing about doesn't exist." The old madam pursed her lips. She was obviously satisfied with her words. Xia Dong felt terrible but she squeezed out a smile. "Mr. Bailey, I think you might have misunderstood something. I won't marry you." "You?" Bailey Han glared at her angrily. Before he could finish speaking, his head started to hurt. It was as if a nerve in his head had been violently jerked. He held his forehead with one hand and his expression was terrible. Bang! His head hurt more and more. The jerking turned into a beating drum. He could even hear the thumping sound. His expression became more and more terrible. His brows furrowed in pain and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He held his forehead with one hand and supported himself against the wall with the other to support himself. Xia Dong saw that he was in pain and wanted to help him up, but she remembered the old madam's words and restrained herself. The old madam's expression changed. She stomped her walking stick and said anxiously, "Ahan, what's wrong?" "My head hurts. Quick, call an ambulance. The old madam was so anxious that she forgot that she was in someone else's house and didn't know who she was ordering. Xiaodong didn't care so much. She trotted to the living room and picked up the phone. Bailey Han's pain in his head subsided quickly like a tide. Bailey Han took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. No, I'm fine. The old madam was worried. Are you really okay? I'm fine. Hearing that he was fine, the old madam didn't feel relieved at all. She still felt heavy. She knew that what she was worried about might happen. Han, if that's the case, let's not disturb them here. Take care. Xia Dong deliberately avoided Bailey Han's gaze and looked down at her feet. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth, but because the old madam was present, he could only hold it in. The sound of footsteps gradually faded away. Xia Dong leaned against the door and couldn't calm down for a long time. The back of her shoulder was still hurting, but she wasn't in the mood to care about it. She was like a walking corpse. She walked to the sofa and sat down. All the strength in her body had been sucked away. She felt very sorry for Bailey Han. When she saw his pained expression when he had a headache, her heart also ached. Xiao Bao was shocked by part of the truth that he had eavesdropped on. He was petrified on the spot and only came to his senses after Bailey Han and the old madam left. He wanted to go forward to check on his mommy's injuries, but he was afraid that she would be angry if she found out that he had eavesdropped. He could only move his short legs back to his room. He secretly dialed Yisiki's number. Hey baby, why did you suddenly think of calling Auntie Siki? Auntie Siki, can I ask you something? Sure, what do you want to know? Auntie Siki, why did my mommy leave China for Japan 5 years ago? Yisiki frowned. Baby, why are you asking this question? Xiao Bao lowered his voice and sounded very depressed. I heard Bailey Yi's great-grandmother say that mommy eloped with Uncle Baiting. Yisiki was furious and blurted out, don't listen to her nonsense. Your mommy encountered some bad things back then and almost lost her life. That's why she hid in Japan to seek refuge. Auntie Siki, then do you know why my mommy got together with Bailey Han and had us? Yisiki gritted her teeth. Baby, Auntie Siki doesn't know about this either. You're still young, so don't ask about these things anymore. After all, it was hard to talk about Xia's adultery. How could she tell her child? Xiao Bao said in a low voice, Oh, I won't ask again. He at least understood one thing. Mommy didn't run to Japan on purpose like old madam said. She had her reasons for abandoning Xiao Yi. Xiao Bao sighed and frowned. Was Xiao Yi his younger brother? Or was he his older brother? Little Wingzi hated his mommy for abandoning him. She had to tell him the truth as soon as possible. Yes, it's decided. Xiao Bao didn't know Bailey Yi's cell phone number, so he called the villa's landline. The housekeeper picked up. Hello, I'm looking for Bailey Yi. The housekeeper picked up the phone and heard a young child's voice. Puzzled, he asked, Who is this? Tell Bailey Yi that I'm Xia Xiaobao. So it's young Master Xia. Please wait a moment. I'll connect the call to little master right away. Because Bailey Han had once hosted Xia Dong and her children at the villa, the housekeeper, who had an excellent memory, still remembered Xiao Bao. Xiao Yi didn't expect Xiao Bao to call him. He looked indifferent. Xia Xiaobao, why are you looking for me? Bailey Yi, I want to tell you something. To ensure that this matter won't be eavesdropped on by a second person, I'll call your cell phone to tell you. Tell me your cell phone number now. Although Xiao Yi was a little impatient, his curiosity prompted him to tell Xiao Bao his cell phone number. Soon Xiao Bao hung up the phone and called him. Xiao Bao didn't beat around the bush and said directly, Actually, you've misunderstood Mom. She didn't abandon you on purpose back then. She had her reasons. When Xiao Yi heard him mention Xia Dong, his expression turned ugly. He pursed his lips and said coldly, What other reasons could there be? She's just selling her son for glory. These days he had been thinking hard about why she would abandon him. In the end he could only come up with this answer. Xiao Bao's anger was stuck in his chest. He said angrily, Bailey Yi, how can you say that about Mommy? She's not that kind of person. Can you listen to what I have to say before you give your opinion? Xiao Yi pursed his lips and said slowly, Then tell me. I'm listening. Xiao Bao scratched his head. I don't know what happened between Mommy and Bailey Han 5 years ago. Anyway, Mommy was pregnant and had us. After that, Mommy was in danger. In order to protect us and her life, she had to leave China. However, your great-grandmother mistakenly thought that Mommy was trying to escape, so when she gave birth, she forcefully carried you back to Bailey's house. Xiao Yi was silent for a long time. Why should I believe you? Also, why didn't my great-grandmother carry Xiao Guai or you back, but me? Your great-grandmother came to cause trouble for mommy just now. I recorded part of their conversation. If you don't believe me, I'll play it for you immediately. As for why your great-grandmother carried you away and not me, I'm not sure. Maybe mommy hid the two children back then? Xiao Bao didn't wait for him to answer. He directly turned on the recording pen and played the recording. This recording started from when the old madam forced Xia Dong to get married within a month. It only ended when Bailey Han appeared and left with the old madam. After the recording ended, there was no sound from the other side of the phone for a long time. Xiao Bao said worriedly, Bailey Yi, are you okay? Bailey Yi? Xiao Yi clenched his fists and suppressed his sobs. He heard it clearly. It was indeed his great-grandmother who forced that woman to come and see him. She didn't allow her to acknowledge him. Then it was his great-grandmother who forcefully carried him back from that woman back then, right? Why did his great-grandmother do that? Why did she use him to force her? Bailey Yi? Xiao Bao's imagination bubbled up. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to take the blow and would do something stupid. He anxiously called out his name. Bailey Yi, don't do anything stupid. Awesome novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 174. Xiao Yi bit his lip, wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and said fiercely, what kind of stupid thing could I do? Let me tell you, Xiao Bao, even if we're brothers, I'll still be the older brother. Xiao Bao was stunned, then suddenly grinned and said proudly, that's not necessarily true. You'll have to ask mommy to find out. Xiao Yi snorted, looking insufferably arrogant. I don't need to ask to know. It must be because I was born first. Great-grandmother didn't know that mommy was pregnant with triplets, so she only took me away. Xiao Bao had to admit that his analysis made sense. Mommy fled to Japan while she was pregnant, so the Bailey family definitely didn't know that she was pregnant with triplets, so they only took the firstborn child away? Something didn't seem right. What was it? Xiao Bao scratched his head and thought for a while, then suddenly shouted, you just called mommy. Xiao Yi choked, then stiffened his neck and retorted, I didn't. You clearly did. I heard it just now. I didn't. You did. The two of them didn't give in to each other and argued for a long time. In the end, Xiao Bao said angrily, forget it, I'm not going to argue with you. Let me tell you, we're biological brothers and Xiao Guai is sick and mommy is close to Bailey Han. You're not allowed to tell anyone about it. You made an oath. Right now, the old madam still didn't know that he and Xiao Guai were also Bailey Han's children. If this secret was exposed, it was very likely that they would be forcefully taken away again. He didn't want to become a child without a mother. From that recording, Xiao Yi already knew the seriousness of the matter, so naturally he wouldn't tell anyone. What's more, when he made the vow, he said that if he broke the vow, his mommy would never be reincarnated. Although he still didn't admit that woman was his mommy, in fact he already secretly admitted it in his heart, he didn't want her to never be reincarnated. Hey, Xiao Bao was silent for a moment before suddenly shouting, Xiao Yi, I think Bailey Han likes mommy a lot. Why don't we matchmake them? Although actually I like Uncle Shin more, Xiao Yi gritted her teeth. How can you do this? My daddy is also your daddy. You should support our daddy. Xiao Bao raised her chin coolly. I haven't acknowledged him as my daddy yet. Aren't you the same? You haven't acknowledged mommy yet, right? Xiao Yi snorted. That's different. Xiao Bao retorted sharply, how is it different? You think that mommy abandoned you, but from my perspective, Bailey Han also abandoned me and Xiao Guai. Xiao Yi choked on his words and said angrily, that's because daddy doesn't know of your existence. I don't care. Abandonment is abandonment. Xiao Bao's eyes darted around and a strange smile appeared on her lips. How about this? I'll acknowledge Bailey Han and you'll acknowledge mommy. I don't want to. Although he had already started to accept it, he still felt a little awkward emotionally. What an awkward guy. Xiao Bao rolled her eyes and said indifferently, all right then, let's continue to separate. Your great-grandmother forced my mommy to marry Uncle Shen within a month. Anyway, Uncle Shen loves us a lot. I'm more than happy that he's our daddy. But it's different for you. If your great-grandmother forced your daddy to marry Su Yunqian, you can just wait to suffer. Xiao Yi gritted her teeth. She knew that he was trying to goad her, but it was very effective because what he said made a lot of sense. After hesitating for a moment, she said, all right, I agree with your suggestion. However, I won't be convinced by you. I want Gigai to have a complete family. All right. Xiao Bao smiled. She didn't care what excuse he came up with. As long as he agreed, it was fine. Xiao Yi frowned, her little face full of seriousness. It's good that we acknowledge each other in our hearts. Don't show it. Otherwise, if great-grandmother finds out, she'll make things difficult for her again. Make things difficult for who? Xiao Bao teased her deliberately. Xiao Yi was furious. You know who I'm talking about. Xiao Bao laughed. If you don't tell me who you're talking about, how would I know who you're talking about? Xiao Yi's mouth twitched. I don't want to play tongue twisters with you anymore. Anyway, we'll keep the status quo on the surface in the future. Xiao Bao shrugged. Of course I know. I'm not stupid. Humph, this little brother of hers was really despicable. So annoying. Would it kill him to express a little respect for his older brother? Would it kill him? Xiao Yi cursed in her heart. Hey Bailey Yi, are you still alive? I haven't been angered to death by you yet. The two brats came to an agreement. They felt that it would be very difficult to matchmake Xia Dong and Bailey Han with just the two of them. They had to canvass for votes and win over all the supporters they could. But other than the two of them, who else could they win over? Xiao Yi's eyes lit up and her pink lips curled up. Xiao Bao, my Auntie Jing is coming back. Great-grandma listens to Auntie Jing. If Auntie Jing is on our side and helps us persuade great-grandma, it will be much easier. Xiao Bao rubbed his chin. When is your Auntie Jing coming back? Next week. But it will be very difficult to persuade your Auntie Jing to stand on our side. How are you going to tell her about our background? Xiao Yi thought for a moment and said, of course we can't tell her directly. Auntie Jing is best friends with Daddy. If Daddy asks her, she will definitely agree. Alright, this will be a supporting plan. The main person to carry out the plan will still be you. Xiao Bao raised his eyebrows and giggled. If you suddenly fall ill and don't recognize anyone, and don't let anyone come close except for my mommy, the Bailey family will definitely let my mommy take care of you. Xiao Yi's mouth twitched. Your idea is similar to how I pretended to be autistic. But don't you think it will be very fake if we do it a second time? Are you stupid? We can make it very real. Who said that we can't use the same method a second time? That's not the point. The point is whether great-grandma will ask her to take care of me for my sake. Xiao Yi was a little depressed. He had to admit that old madam using him to threaten Xia Dong was a huge blow to him. He even started to doubt if old madam was really good to him. A child's heart was actually very fragile. Xiao Bao thought for a moment and nodded solemnly. I think so. Your great-grandma still loves you a lot. Also, we have to carry out the plan as soon as possible. Otherwise, when Uncle Shin comes back. Boo-hoo, he suddenly felt very guilty. He had let Uncle Shin down. What should he do? Xia Dong was still in a daze on the sofa. She held her forehead and had a headache. She was going to marry Mika Kito within a month. How was she going to tell him that she was going to use him as a shield? Calculating the time, he should be back from Japan in at most half a month. Suddenly the doorbell rang. She saw who it was through the peephole and quickly opened the door. Why are you here? Xia Yun rushed in with a big bag. She said that she was here to help her settle her marriage. She placed the things in the living room and pushed the stunned Xia Dong into the room. Quick, change your clothes. Before coming, I signed you up for a TV dating show. It's going to be recorded tonight. Ah, really? Xia Dong was scared out of her wits. She quickly found an excuse. And I have to take care of Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao. I don't have time to participate in a dating show. Xia Yun smiled. What are you afraid of? I'm here. I'll stay here to take care of Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. You go to the TV station to record the show. Of course, I'll personally escort you to the TV station. Aunt? Okay, hurry up and change your clothes. Xia Dong was pushed into the room by Xia Yun. She quickly called Yi Siki for help. Unexpectedly, when Yi Siki heard it, he laughed heartily. He said that he didn't expect Aunt Xia to be so powerful and so ruthless. Xia Dong grabbed her hair angrily. Yezi, are you my friend or not? I'm so anxious, but you're still gloating over my misfortune. Isn't it just a dating show? Go ahead. At most, you'll act a little better. The moment you start, you'll say that you have 3 children. Won't those men be scared away by you? It's fine if I embarrass myself, but the problem is that I don't want to drag the children into this. Xia Dong sighed. Think about it. This show is for the whole city. If people find out that I'm Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai's mother, they'll laugh at them. That's true. Then let's do it this way. Try to reduce your presence as much as possible so that people won't notice you. If there are unlucky guys who bump into you, politely decline and say that the two of you aren't compatible. Xia Dong suddenly had an idea. Yezi, I suddenly thought of something. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. I'm going to talk to my aunt. Xia Yun was tidying up the fridge and putting in the vegetables and fruits that she had bought. Xia Dong looked at her busy figure and felt a little guilty. Coincidentally, her aunt turned around and urged her, "Why haven't you changed? Hurry up. I'll accompany you to the beauty salon later." Xia Dong made up her mind. She gritted her teeth and said, "Aunt, I can't go on the dating show." Xia Yun was stunned. "What? Aunt, although Mika Kito and I have a fake engagement, the media basically knows about it. Think about it. If I go on the dating show with such fanfare, what will the media think?" Xia Yun slapped her thigh. "How could I forget about this? Forget it. I'll call the TV station now and tell them that you won't be going." She quickly called the TV station and said a lot of good things. "Xia, you don't have to go on the dating show, but you must go on the blind date." Xia Yun had another trick up her sleeve. She took out a stack of photos and placed them in front of Xia Dong. Come. Take a look. Auntie Li specially picked these for you." The Auntie Li that Xia Yun mentioned opened a matchmaking agency and had a lot of information on unmarried men and women. Beauty Novels, Hongcha 866. Chapter 175. Xia, look at this one. 35 years old, farmer entrepreneur. Although he's not very educated, he's honest and knows how to make money. Then look at this one. 32 years old, university language teacher. He's cultured and talented. And this one. 31 years old, white-collar elite, handsome and confident. He's a department manager in a foreign trade company. Xia Yun took the photos and introduced them one by one as if he was very familiar with them. Xia Dong didn't want to dampen her enthusiasm. Under her urging from the first photo to the last, there were more than 30 candidates. Xia, there are 32 people here. You can choose a few suitable ones. I'll ask your Auntie Li to arrange a time for the meeting. Xia Dong rubbed her eyebrows. "Aunt, do I really have to choose?" Xia Yun raised her eyebrows. "Of course. Why else would I spend so much effort?" "Okay then." Xia Dong took the photos and looked at them carefully. During the process of choosing, she suddenly had an idea. Since she didn't want to use Brother Shin as a shield, she might as well find someone to fake a marriage. Anyway, old madam only wanted her to get married. It shouldn't be a big deal to change the marriage partner. Suddenly she had a chance. Xia Dong selected carefully. In the end, she eliminated a few men who were particularly good, leaving behind 5 men who looked especially honest and easy to communicate with. "And I've chosen. It's them." Xia Yun took the photos and looked at them carefully. These 5 men were not the best overall, but they were not bad. She was quite satisfied and said, Xia, I'll ask your Auntie Li to arrange it quickly. You should buy a few more clothes and dress yourself up in the next 2 days." Xia Dong smiled and said, "Okay." Xia Yun was impatient and didn't wait until she got home. She directly contacted Xia Dong's old friend and asked her to help arrange a meeting between the 5 men and Xia Dong. Coincidentally, one of the 5 ladies happened to be on leave today and had time. He asked Auntie Li to help him arrange a blind date. Auntie Li immediately set a time and place for him and Xia Dong to meet, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon at Blue's Mood Cafe. "No way, Auntie, we're meeting in the afternoon?" She was not mentally prepared at all. "The earlier we meet, the earlier we make a decision. The earlier I marry you off, the earlier I can be at ease." All right, I got it. I'll leave Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai in your care then." After lunch, Xia Dong was chased into her room by Xia Yun. Xia Yun told her to put on makeup and change her clothes. Xia Dong was in such a hurry. She tried out one outfit after another, matching shoes and bags. Her movements were so loud that even Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai knew about it. The 2 little guys squeezed into her room to watch the fun. Xiao Guai said in a childish voice, "Mommy, great aunt said that you're going on a blind date. What about Uncle Shin? Oh, and Uncle Bailey, he also wants to marry you." Suddenly hearing Bailey Han's name, Xia Dong's heart skipped a beat. She actually felt flustered. She knocked on her daughter's forehead to cover it up. "What nonsense are you talking about? Go back to your room and take a nap. Otherwise Mommy will be angry." Xiao Guai stuck out her tongue. "All right, Mommy, don't be angry. I'll go and rest now." After coaxing one little guy away, there was still another. Xiao Bao crossed his arms and puffed up his cheeks. He looked at her sternly. "Mom, are you really going to marry someone else? Aren't you going to consider marrying Bailey Han?" "Don't mention Bailey Han anymore." Xia Dong had a headache. She put on a pitiful face. "Baby, Mommy is already very frustrated. Don't mention this again, okay?" Xiao Bao shrugged helplessly. It seemed that he still needed to do something. When Xia Dong went out, Suzaku naturally followed. The two entered the cafe one after the other. Xia Dong was led to the agreed seat by the waiter. Suzaku sat down at the door. The blind date had already arrived. He was wearing a white shirt, black trousers and a pair of black-rimmed glasses. He couldn't be considered handsome, but his facial features were regular and he looked simple and honest. The man stood up and politely said, "Miss Xia? I'm Zhou Zijian." "Hello, Mr. Zhou." Xia Dong politely reached out to shake his hand. Zhou Zijian smiled gently and handed over a menu. Xia Dong glanced at it briefly and ordered a cup of fresh orange juice. Ever since she became pregnant, she hadn't drunk coffee or tea. A cup of fresh orange juice and a cup of cappuccino. Zhou Zijian returned the menu to the waiter. "Miss Xia, what do you do for a living?" Before the drinks were served, Zhou Zijian took the initiative to speak. Xia Dong smiled. "I used to be a fashion magazine editor. Now I'm idle at home." The smile on Zhou Zijian's face disappeared as he calmly said, "I'm more in favor of equality between men and women. I also support my wife to have her own career. I feel that women should first be financially independent. Only then will they be more confident in their relationships." The waiter brought the orange juice and drinks. Xia Dong took a sip of the orange juice and smiled faintly. "You're right. I also feel that women should have their own careers." Zhou Zijian nodded. "May I ask if Miss Xia has any plans for her future?" Xia Dong's slender fingers tapped on the table. "Mr. Zhou, actually, I'm not here for a blind date. I'm here to discuss a business deal." Zhou Zijian frowned. "What do you mean?" Xia Dong smiled. "Let's get married." Zhou Zijian was stunned. Before he could answer, a black figure rushed over like a gust of wind. A cold voice exploded beside them. "I don't agree." Xia Dong was stunned. She raised her head and looked to the side of the coffee table. Bailey Han's handsome and tall figure stood in front of her. His exquisite and perfect features were filled with anger. His dark eyes were as sharp as a hawk's. "Why are you here? If I didn't come, how would I know that you're on a blind date and that you're planning to marry this man?" Bailey Han was furious. When he received Xiao Bao's call and found out that Xia Dong was on a blind date, he immediately abandoned the meeting and drove over. The first thing he heard was that she wanted to marry that man. The people around them looked over curiously. Zhou Zijin couldn't help but ask, "Miss Xia, who is this gentleman?" Xia Dong's head hurt. "He's just an ordinary friend of mine." "Ordinary friend?" Bailey Han snorted coldly. He grabbed Xia Dong's wrist and pulled her up from her seat. He pulled her into his arms domineeringly and stared at Zhou Zijin with his malicious eyes. "I'm not an ordinary friend. I'm her boyfriend and will soon become her husband. Don't talk nonsense. There's nothing between us." Xia Dong struggled hard, but his arms and chest were like an iron wall that trapped her tightly. Bailey Han was so angry that he laughed. A complicated look flashed across his eyes and his voice suddenly became gentle. "Baby, stop fooling around. Although my family doesn't agree to our marriage, I've already decided on you and will love you for the rest of my life. Believe me, I'll definitely make them accept you." His hand caressed her abdomen and he said gently, "Look, we even have a baby. How can we be considered ordinary friends?" His voice was clearly very gentle, but Xia Dong felt a chill in her bones and couldn't help but shiver. The people around them looked at their table as if they were watching a good show. Zhou Zijin flew into a rage out of humiliation. He stood up and said coldly, "Miss Xia, I didn't expect you to be this kind of woman. You've disappointed me." Bailey Han hugged Xia Dong and stared at Zhou Zijin fiercely. His entire body exuded an oppressive aura. "My woman is not for you to judge." His eyes were like those of a ferocious beast, filled with a sense of tool. Zhou Zijin actually felt a little scared, but he couldn't afford to lose. He raised his chin and said proudly, "I'll comment. So what? A woman like her whose two-timing would be drowned in a pig's cage in ancient times." Bang! Just as he finished speaking, Bailey Han's fierce fist had already landed on his face. Bailey Han wanted to punch again, but Xia Dong hugged his arm tightly and said anxiously, "What are you doing? Don't hit him." Zhou Zijin covered the bleeding corner of his mouth. He was timid and angry as he stared at Xia Dong. Damn it, all of this was caused by this B*TC. "Get lost." Bailey Han shouted coldly. You just wait. I'll call the police." Zhou Zijin said stubbornly. Bailey Han sneered. "Okay, my name is Bailey Han." You're welcome to call the police to arrest me at any time. Bailey Han. This name was almost a household name in City A. Of course, Zhou Zijin was no stranger to it. He didn't expect that he would be so unlucky to run into him. What was even more unfortunate was that his company had business dealings with Shanghao Group. Xia Dong swore that she had never seen a person change his face so quickly. After Zhou Zijin heard Bailey Han introduce himself, he was stunned for a second and immediately put on a smile. So it's President Bailey. It's all a misunderstanding. I'll take my leave first. You two have a good chat. Zhou Zijin was practically fleeing in panic. The people who were watching the show were also shocked. They were quietly gossiping in their hearts, guessing Xia Dong's identity. Who on earth was she? She actually defeated Su Yunqian and had Bailey Han under her thumb. Most importantly, she was pregnant. That woman seems to be the fiancée of Bo Ao Group's president, Mika Kito. A person who liked to read gossip magazines recognized Xia Dong's identity and whispered to his companion. Ah, it really seems to be her. Isn't she Mika Kito's fiancée? How could she be pregnant with Bailey Han's child? The people in the cafe had already started gossiping in low voices. As for the two parties involved, Bailey Han naturally didn't care about those gossips. As for Xia Dong, he didn't have the time to pay attention to those gossips. He struggled hard and said in a low voice, Bailey Han, let go of me. Come with me. Bailey Han suppressed his anger and grabbed Xia Dong's arm, wanting to take her away. Let go of me, I won't go with you. Xia Dong stubbornly hugged the table and refused to let go. You won't go? Then don't blame me for being impolite. Bailey Han suddenly bent down and picked her up. Everyone exclaimed. Awesome novel. Hongcha 866. Chapter 176. Bailey Han carried Xia Dong and strode out of the cafe under everyone's watchful eyes. Suzuka followed. Before he opened the car door, Suzuka blocked him and said coldly, Bailey Han, let go of Xia Dong. There were too many people in the cafe just now, so it was inconvenient for her to make a move. But now she didn't care so much. Bailey Han sneered, if you have the ability, beat my bodyguard first. As soon as he finished speaking, a cold-faced man in a black suit suddenly appeared in front of them. Bailey Han said coldly, Du Bing, stop her. Suzaku suddenly attacked Bailey Han with her palm. Bailey Han carried Xia Dong and dodged to the side. Suzaku was tall, but her movements were extremely agile. She rushed in front of Suzaku like lightning and entangled her attack. Bailey Han let them fight to the death and carried Xia Dong to the front passenger seat. The moment he got into the car, Xia Dong wanted to escape. Unexpectedly, Du Bing, who was fighting with Suzaku, pressed her back against the car door as if she had eyes on the back of her head. Xia Dong couldn't push the door open no matter how hard she tried. The car started quickly. Xia Dong gave up the idea of escaping and stared at Bailey Han gloomily. Where are you taking me? You'll know soon. They sped all the way. When they arrived at the destination, Xia Dong looked up and almost vomited blood. There was a sign hanging on the door of the building with the words City A's Civil Affairs Bureau written on it. What was going on? Was she hallucinating? Bailey Han dragged Xia Dong's handbag over and took out her ID card from her wallet. He grabbed her arm and said, Get out of the car. No, I don't want to. Xia Dong hugged the car door tightly. Bailey Han, are you crazy? Why did you bring me here? We're here at the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate, of course. Don't tell me we're here for a day trip? Bailey Han retorted sharply and used the same trick again. He bent down and picked her up directly. If it weren't for the baby in her belly, he would have carried her on his shoulder to save energy and convenience, so that she wouldn't keep struggling. Bailey Han, let go of me. I don't want to marry you. Xia Dong pounded on his chest, kicked his legs and bit his arm. She did everything she could to get him to leave. Bailey Han's face darkened. He lowered his head and glared at her. We even have a child together. If you don't marry me, who else do you want to marry? Be child? Who said we have a child? The evidence is in your stomach. How dare you say you don't have it? You damned woman, I'll teach you a lesson after we get the marriage certificate. Bailey Han was almost angered to death by her. No, the child isn't yours. As they got closer to the Civil Affairs Bureau, Xia Dong was about to go crazy. She didn't give up and bit his arm. With tears in her eyes, she said vaguely, Are you going to let go or not? Bailey Han let out a muffled groan as his brows furrowed in pain. Not letting go. Xia Dong held the door tightly with both hands and thought quickly. Bailey Han, marriage requires a household register. We don't have all the documents, so we can't go through with it. Bailey Han pulled hard, and her fingers slowly moved away from the door frame. Don't worry, I have all the documents, including your household register. Her fingers moved away from the door frame inch by inch. Xia Dong was so anxious that she burst into tears. Bailey Han, let me go, I don't want to get married. I can do anything you want, but not this. Bailey Han had steeled his heart and couldn't be bothered to feel sorry for her. With a fierce tug, her entire body fell into his embrace and they finally left the main door. The staff of the Civil Affairs Bureau was stunned to see a man carrying a crying woman into the Civil Affairs Bureau in a flustered and exasperated manner. The man's face darkened as he yelled that he had to get the marriage certificate today, and the woman cried and begged him to let her go. This pair didn't look like they were here to get married but to get divorced. The staff wiped the sweat from his forehead and asked carefully, "Are you two really here to get married? Without coercion and completely of your own free will?" "Not of our own free will." As soon as Xia Dong cried out, Bailey Han covered her mouth at lightning speed. His other hand quickly took out a pile of documents from his pocket and slammed them on the desk. "Absolutely of our own free will. These are our documents, please hurry up and get them processed." The staff saw that the woman kept blinking at him for help, and cold sweat dripped down his forehead. He wanted to say a few words of fairness, but after opening Bailey Han's household register and ID card, he immediately said seriously, "You two are indeed of your own free will. I'll process it for you now." It turned out that Bailey Han had already used his connections before he took Xia Dong to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Xia Dong was in despair. Had Bailey's black hand already reached out to the Civil Affairs Bureau? Because of the advance notice, a lot of procedures were skipped. During the photo shoot, Xia Dong refused to cooperate no matter what. In the end, with the help of 2 female staff, or to be exact, coercion, she was forced to take a photo with Bailey Han. The most miserable wedding photo in history was thus produced. Even many years later, when Xia Dong thought about it, she still hated it. After Bailey Han's scheme succeeded, he was overjoyed. He dragged along the disheartened Xia Dong and thanked the staff. The staff, especially the 2 who helped press Xia Dong's head, were full of guilt. They were afraid that Xia Dong would hate them for the rest of her life, so they smiled and waved their hands. They hurriedly sent them out, praying that they would not come tomorrow to process the divorce. "Bailey Han, you scoundrel, I hate you to death." After getting into the car and regaining her freedom, Xia Dong screamed and pounced on Bailey Han angrily. She bit his arm. That fierce bite caused blood to flow. Bailey Han gritted his teeth, but he did not make a sound. The taste of blood in her mouth stimulated Xia Dong's brain. She finally regained a trace of rationality. She loosened her teeth and glared at him with extreme hatred. Bailey Han smiled helplessly and patted her head. His eyes were full of affection. "Bite if you want. Vent your anger. Don't hold it in." Faced with his gentle gaze, Xia Dong suddenly couldn't bite down and started crying. She couldn't accept it. Half an hour ago she was still Miss Xia, and now she was Mrs. Bailey. She didn't want to. When she cried, he panicked. He gently hugged her in his arms and coaxed her like a child. "Don't cry. Be good. I will love you for the rest of my life." He swore to God that this was the first time he had said such explicit words. He used to think that these words were mushy, but when he said it to her now, it was so natural. It was as if he had said it to her 1,000 times. "Wah." She cried even louder. She hit his back hard with both hands. "Why are you doing this? Wah. Don't you know that there are a lot of problems between us? It's impossible for us to be together. Because I love you. I don't want you to marry someone else. When I saw you go on blind dates with other people, I was so jealous that I almost went crazy." Bailey Han hugged her tightly. He wanted nothing more than to melt her into his body. After they became one, he would never have to worry about her leaving him again. Xia, don't be afraid. I know there are a lot of problems between us, but trust me. I will deal with it." He cupped her face and kissed the tears on her cheeks. His movements were gentle, as if he was treating a treasure. Xia, trust me." She cried and shook her head. She did not believe him. She did not believe him at all. Bailey's family hated her so much. How could they accept her? And he was so perfect and charming. How could he fall in love with a woman who had given birth to a child? And what if he remembered what happened 5 years ago one day? What would he do? "My life is already a mess. Bailey Han, I beg you. Let me go. Let's get a divorce. Let's get a divorce now." She grabbed the door handle agitatedly and tried to open the car door. He held her shoulders and turned her around to face him. He stared at her teary eyes and said word by word, "I won't get a divorce. Don't even think about it." Xia Dong yelled in exasperation, "But I don't love you at all. I don't want to marry, Bailey Han directly used his own mouth to block her chattering little mouth. He wanted to use practical actions to tell her that he was already her husband, and there was no room for resistance. Her lips were soft and sweet. His original intention of kissing her slowly changed. He was intoxicated by it. He covered her angry eyes with one hand and gently teased her. Bailey Han stuck out his tongue and gently swept it across Xia Dong's lips. He lifted it slightly and slipped his tongue into her mouth while she was still in shock. The warm tip of his tongue moved nimbly. Waves of numbness rose from the bottom of her heart. Xia Dong could not help but moan. At this moment, her entire body was limp and she had no strength to resist. Even her mind was a little muddled. His hand had unknowingly slid to her waist and under her clothes. He gently caressed her soft skin and a warm current rushed to his abdomen. He wanted to take her, but he still had some rationality left. He could not hurt the baby in her stomach. It took him a lot of effort to control himself. He let go of her lips and pulled her into his embrace. He breathed heavily and calmed down a certain part of his body that was proudly sticking out. Xia Dong was also panting. Her eyes were filled with confusion. She lay on his chest and rested for a long time before she recovered her senses. When she looked down, she happened to see a small tent in his pants. Her face flushed red and she hurriedly climbed out of his embrace. Her cheeks were red as she looked out of the window, not daring to look at him. Bailey Han suppressed his desire. Although he was still very uncomfortable, he was in a good mood when he saw her shy expression. He lifted his hand to stroke the hair by her ear and chuckled softly. "Xia Xia, you have feelings for me too. I will make you fall in love with me." She was panting in his embrace just now. She was so soft and coquettish that he believed she had feelings for him. Because of his straightforward words, Xia Dong's face turned even redder. She said unhappily, "Pervert, I can't be bothered with you." Bailey Han laughed happily. His voice was low and hoarse and sounded extremely sexy. Attention Jianghu 799. Chapter 177. The car had been on the road for half an hour. The ambiguity in the air had dissipated and Xia Dong had returned to normal. She coughed and asked, "How did you get my household register?" Bailey Han smirked. "It's a secret." When he had the idea of getting the marriage certificate, he had mentioned it to Xiaobao. Unexpectedly, not only did the little rascal not object, she even strongly supported it and even sent Xia Dong's household register to him. He couldn't help but wonder when the little rascal had become so kind. Xia Dong rolled her eyes. "You don't have to tell me. You must have come to my house and stolen it." Bailey Han's smirk deepened, but he didn't explain. He couldn't betray the little rascal. Xia Dong pondered. Their marriage was already set in stone. No matter how much she cried, it wouldn't change this fact. She might as well gain his trust first, then steal the marriage certificate. She might as well go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to file for divorce. She didn't know if she could file for divorce without either party present. It didn't matter if she couldn't. She could ask Brother Shin for help. Yes, that's right. Right now, the most important thing was to keep their marriage a secret. Xia Dong rolled her eyes and said, "Bailey Han, I want to discuss something with you." Bailey Han frowned and was unhappy. Xia, we're already married. Do you still have to call me by such a stiff title?" Xia Dong had something to discuss with him, so she naturally lowered her attitude. "Then I'll call you Ahan like your family." Bailey Han's lips curved. "Call me hubby." "No." Xia Dong resisted firmly. He snorted. "I'm in a bad mood right now. I don't want to discuss anything." Okay, hubby," Xia Dong said the last two words after holding it in for a long time. She had goosebumps all over her body. "That's nice. Call me that again." Bailey Han raised his eyebrows and was full of joy. She frowned and said angrily, "Bailey Han, you did this on purpose." He sighed. "Forget it, I won't force you." "But I'm in a bad mood again." Xia Dong wanted to beat him up in her heart. She called out again in frustration, "Hubby." "Yes, wife, what's the matter?" He looked at her with a smile. Her cheeks, which had returned to normal, began to warm up again. She looked away and stared straight ahead. "I want to discuss with you. Keep our marriage a secret for now. Don't let anyone know about it, including your family." His face darkened. She had already thought of an excuse. With a bitter smile she said, "You should have seen it this morning. Your grandmother hates me and doesn't want me to marry you. If they know that we're married they definitely won't let it go. I just want to live a stable life." With a squeak he stopped the car by the side of the road. He turned her shoulders around and his face was terrifyingly gloomy. "Because of this, you lied to me and said that the baby is Mika Kito's?" She didn't know how he came to the conclusion that the baby was his, but it wasn't important anymore. She sighed and said in a helpless tone, "That's right, Bailey Han. We're from two different worlds. Call me hubby." He stared into her eyes and insisted seriously. He had to cultivate this habit of hers. She pursed her lips and said, "Hubby," in a low voice. Then she said, "Do you agree with what I said just now?" Bailey Han ruffled her hair. "I originally planned to get our marriage certificate today and find a good day to hold the wedding within this month." She asked nervously, "What about now?" He chuckled. "Since you don't want to announce it to the public, I'll satisfy your request for the time being. We'll hold the wedding after I convince my family." He also hoped that their wedding would receive the blessings of the whole family. She smiled. "Thank you." He leaned over and kissed her forehead. "You're welcome, wife." Her face heated up again. Bailey Han sent her to her neighborhood. She wanted to go upstairs alone but he didn't allow it. He grabbed her hand and dragged her out of the car without any explanation. In the elevator Xia Dong looked worried. "Bailey Han, what did you call me?" Bailey Han's eyes narrowed dangerously. He suddenly bent over and kissed her on the lips. "Let go of me." Xia Dong hit his chest. Just then the elevator door opened and someone walked in. Xia Dong's face was flushed red. Bailey Han let go of her as if nothing had happened. He said in a low voice, "If you call me by the wrong name again, I'll use this method to gag you again." Xia Dong was embarrassed and angry at the same time. She pinched his waist hard. They walked out of the elevator and walked towards the door of their house. Xia Dong was like a snail behind them. Bailey Han didn't rush her. He turned around and waited for her patiently. She said helplessly, "Bailey? What? Hubby, my aunt is at home." He raised his eyebrows. "Great. Aunt is here. I'll tell her about us." "No, it's not good at all." Xia Dong quickly went forward and grabbed his arm. She said anxiously, "You promised me that you couldn't let anyone know about our marriage." Bailey Han's face darkened. "If I don't tell Aunt about our marriage, what if she arranges another blind date for you?" His eyes were filled with danger. She couldn't help but gulp. "At most, I'll find an excuse," he closed in on her. "You can find an excuse once or twice. Are you going to find an excuse every time? Tell her that we're married. This is the best way to solve the problem once and for all." He was already very upset that he couldn't announce their marriage to his family for the time being. How could he watch her go on another blind date? He might as well take his life. "No, we can't let Aunt know." Xia Dong anxiously grabbed his arm. He gripped her wrist tightly. His eyes were firm. Xia, don't be afraid. No matter what the problem is, we'll face it together." "No." Xia Dong shook her head violently. She wasn't mentally prepared yet. Moreover, her aunt would definitely not agree to it. "Hurry up and open the door." He put his arm around her shoulders and dragged her to the door. "I'm not opening it." She hugged her handbag tightly and refused to take out her keys. His lips curled into a smile. He reached out and pressed the doorbell. "Do you think I can't enter without a key?" Xia Dong couldn't stop him in time. She could only watch as her aunt opened the door. Xia, this. "Mr. Bailey, what are you doing here?" Xia Yun looked at the two people at the door in surprise. Bailey Han even placed his hand on Xia Dong's shoulder. Bailey Han said calmly, "Aunt, Xia and I have good news for you." Xia Yun thought she had misheard. Her lips twitched and she forced an ugly smile. "What's the matter? Come in and talk." In the living room, Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao were curled up on the sofa watching cartoons. "Mommy, Uncle Bailey." Xiao Guai blinked. Mommy and Uncle Bailey both had strange expressions on their faces. Xiao Bao stroked his chin. From Bailey Han's smug smile, he could already guess that his scheme had succeeded. Bailey Han smiled and patted Xiao Guai's head. He then patted Xiao Bao's little shoulder like the head of the family. "Xiao Bao, Xiao Guai, Uncle has something to discuss. Can you go back to your room first?" "Okay." The two children eagerly entered the room. Xia Dong hung her head dejectedly like a defeated rooster. Bailey Han secretly held her hand. The smile on his face had disappeared. He looked at Xia Yun seriously and said, "Aunt, Xia and I are married." What? Xia Yun was so excited that she almost jumped up from the sofa. Married? When did this happen? Just now. We went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate. Xia Yun took a while to recover from the huge shock. I don't believe it. Show me your marriage certificate. Bailey Han took out the newly released marriage certificate. Xia Yun trembled as she opened the marriage certificate. Although Xia Dong's expression in the photo was twisted and her movements were stiff, and there seemed to be someone holding her back and head, this was indeed a marriage certificate. A genuine marriage certificate. Xia Dong's eyes lit up when she saw the marriage certificate. She really wanted to pounce on it and snatch it. Xia Yun looked at it carefully 3 times. In the end, her eyes rolled back and she fainted on the sofa. Aunt, Xia Dong frantically pinched Xia Yun's philtrum. Bailey Han took an ice cube and put it on her forehead. After a few minutes, Xia Yun slowly woke up. The first thing she said was, "Divorce? Go and get a divorce now." Bailey Han said faintly, "The Civil Affairs Bureau is closed now. Then go tomorrow. We have to get a divorce anyway. Aunt Xia and I are already married. I won't agree to a divorce." Xia Yun removed the ice cube from her forehead and sat up. "Mr. Bailey, don't call me aunt. I don't deserve it. Xia and you are from 2 different worlds. You are not suitable for each other." Xia Dong hurriedly said, "Bailey Han, my aunt doesn't agree to it either. Let's get a divorce." Her voice became softer and softer because she noticed that Bailey Han's expression had turned very ugly. He was even glaring at her fiercely. Facing Xia Yun, Bailey Han remained polite and courteous. "Aunt Xia is marrying me. I won't let her suffer any grievances." Xia Yun sighed. "Bailey Han, let me ask you. What do you like about Xia?" Bailey Han pursed his lips and said slowly, "I don't know. When I realized that I had fallen in love with her, I was already willing to give up my life for her." Xia Dong's heart trembled. She recalled how he had knocked her head and made her bleed. Xia Yun was stunned. After a moment of silence, she shook her head. "Even if you're sincere about her, I can't agree to it. Xia is a very simple person. She's not suitable for your family. Besides, your family won't accept her. If the outside world finds out, it will cause a huge uproar. The one who will be hurt is Xia. You know Xia's situation. She has to raise 2 children by herself. It's already very hard for her. She doesn't have the energy to deal with those troublesome things. If you really love her, then don't hurt her." Ad Xingwu 799. Chapter 178. "Auntie, I know what you're talking about." Bailey Han tightened his grip on Xia Dong's hand and turned to look at her. His eyes were firm and full of tenderness. "But I love her and I want to stay by her side to protect her. Xia looks strong on the outside, but she's actually very sensitive and insecure. She doesn't believe in love and will shrink back when it comes to matters of the heart. She doesn't believe in everlasting love and refuses to give up her heart. I will use my actions to prove that she won't regret marrying me. No matter how big the storm in the future is, I will protect her from it." Xia Dong's heart trembled. She didn't dare to look into his affectionate eyes and lowered her eyes. Xia Yun could tell that he was sincere about Xia Dong. Her initial determination to oppose the marriage was also wavering. Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai were both Bailey Han's children. If they could be together, wouldn't it be a good thing for the children? However, there were too many problems between them. Could Bailey Han really withstand the pressure from his family? After thinking for a long time, she sighed and rubbed her forehead. "How about this, Bailey Han? I'll give you 2 months. If you can make your family accept Xia within 2 months, I'll approve of your marriage. If you can't do it, you can get a divorce. In these 2 months, you have to keep your marriage a secret and you can't live together. Everything will remain the same." Bailey Han agreed. 2 months wasn't a long time. If he wanted to change his family's opinion of Xia Dong, he had to start from the root. He had to find the reason why they were rejecting her and then deal with it. After sending Xia Yun off, Bailey Han dragged Xia Dong back to her room. Bailey Han locked the door. "Take off your clothes." Xia Dong crossed her arms and looked at him warily. "What are you trying to do?" He raised his eyebrows in amusement. "Did you apply medicine to your shoulder? Let me take a look at your injury." Only then did Xia Dong realize that he was talking about the injury she got when she blocked the old madam's walking stick in the morning. Her cheeks couldn't help but blush. "It's okay. I've already applied medicine. Let me take a look. If you don't take it off, I'll do it myself." Bailey Han didn't believe her at all. Xia Dong's cheeks reddened even more. You can go out first. The corners of his lips curled up. He really opened the door and walked out. Xia Dong took out a spaghetti-strapped nightgown from the wardrobe. After changing into it, she called Bailey Han in. The moment he entered the room, he saw that she was wearing a spaghetti-strapped nightgown that exposed her shoulders. It was soft and pink, and the dress was knee-length, revealing her slender and exquisite calves. She combed her hair uncomfortably and explained, "It's easier to see my shoulders when I wear this dress." His eyes darkened as he brushed away the long hair on her shoulder. There was a bruise on her right shoulder. Her skin was fair to begin with, so the bruise was especially glaring. He was instantly enraged. From the looks of it, the bruise had not been treated at all, yet she had lied to him. "Don't move." Although he was angry, his voice was very gentle. When he was chased out by her, he went to ask Xiao Bao. He found the family medical kit and took out the ointment to treat external injuries. He carefully applied it to her bruise. After applying the ointment, Xia Dong took a shawl and put it on. She coughed and said, "It's getting late. Shouldn't you go back?" "Wifey, I want to spend more time with you." At the thought that this little woman had become his wife, he couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart. He wanted to hold her in his arms and not let go for even a moment. Xia Dong laughed dryly. "Didn't you promise Xiao Yi that you would eat dinner with him every day? You should hurry home." He stretched out his arm and easily pulled her into his embrace. Her soft and fragrant body moved restlessly in his embrace. He started to feel restless and helplessly curled his lips. "I really want to marry you as soon as possible." Xia Dong pushed him. "Aren't we already married?" He was like a child who didn't get his candy. He rubbed his head against her head and sighed sadly. "I'm talking about living together." Xia Dong blushed. He suddenly lowered his head and kissed her lips. His warm lips pressed tightly against hers. He hugged her and suddenly turned around. She was already facing him. He lifted the back of her head with one hand and hugged her waist with the other. The refreshing masculine scent invaded her senses. His lips and tongue were soft and full of possessiveness, as if he wanted to tear her apart and eat her up. She felt a strong sense of oppression and uneasily pushed against his chest. He grabbed her hand and softened his movements at the right time. His kiss was as fragrant as wine, gradually captivating her. His burning hot palm landed on her shoulders and slowly moved down. The strap of her dress slid down to her chest, and her softness was on the verge of bursting out. The contradictory feeling of being cold and burning hot woke her up. She couldn't help but moan as she pushed his arm away. He seemed to have woken up from a dream. He hugged her tightly and panted heavily. She calmed her breathing and said unhappily, "You promised my aunt that you wouldn't touch me in the future." He laughed deeply and his voice was a little hoarse. "I only promised her that I wouldn't live together with you." She gritted her teeth. "In my opinion, it means the same thing." He laughed happily. "That only means that my wife has misunderstood me." Scram. Xia Dong punched him on the back and pushed him away. He stroked her hair gently and said reluctantly, "Wife, I'm leaving. See you tomorrow." Hurry up and leave. If she didn't leave now, he would take advantage of her completely. She finally sent him off. Xia Dong hugged her shoulders and curled up on the sofa. She was still in a daze. This day had been too full of ups and downs. She still felt that it was unreal. She didn't know how to explain to old madam. She was so frustrated. She scratched her head angrily. The doorbell suddenly rang. It was Suzaku. Her beautiful face was as cold as an iceberg. The first thing she said when she saw her was an apology. "I'm sorry that I didn't protect you well. Did Bailey Han hurt you?" "It's okay. It's not your fault." Xia Dong laughed dryly. She didn't dare to tell her that Bailey Han had forced her to register her marriage. If she told her, she would definitely report it to Brother Shin. Then things would get troublesome. Xia Dong coughed. "You, on the other hand, didn't that Du Bing guy hurt you?" Suzaku snorted. "He doesn't have the ability to hurt me." Losing the person she was protecting was a great humiliation to her. One day she would make that Du Bing guy pay the price. The two of them didn't say anything else. Suzaku went home to rest. Xia Dong went into the kitchen to prepare dinner. Unexpectedly, the doorbell rang again. She thought that Suzaku had returned. She didn't expect it to be a delivery man. Xia Dong asked curiously, "Did you make a mistake?" "I didn't order delivery." "It's here. The person who ordered it has already paid. Please sign here." Xia Dong had no choice but to sign her name. She carried the snack box back to the living room. When she opened it, there were many delicious dishes. They looked, smelled, and tasted good, which aroused her appetite. Her phone suddenly rang. Bailey Han chuckled. "Honey, has the delivery arrived? So it was you who ordered it." Xia Dong had always suspected that they had sent it to the wrong door. "How are the dishes? Do you like them?" He could almost imagine her expression after being confused. He couldn't help but smile. "They're good. Thank you." She didn't expect him to be so attentive. "You guys eat first. I'll call you in the evening." Bailey Han said a few words and ended the call. Xia Dong called the two little guys to eat. When they saw that it was takeout, they were very puzzled. Ever since their mommy resigned, she had been cooking for them. Xia Dong explained that it was Uncle Bailey who ordered it. Xiao Bao smiled strangely. "Mom, I forgot to tell you something. I'm no longer against Bailey Han being my daddy." Why is that? Haven't you always hated him?" Xia Dong wiped her sweat. She felt that something was wrong. It was as if her son was hinting at something. Xiao Bao shrugged and said nonchalantly, "Because I realized that I misunderstood him. Since the misunderstanding has been resolved, I have no reason to hate him." "I don't want," Xiao Guai pouted. "Uncle Bailey isn't bad, but I like Uncle Shen more. I want Uncle Shen to be my daddy." Xiao Bao patted Xiao Guai's head. "Gigai, don't forget that Bailey Han is our biological daddy. Although Uncle Shen is very good, don't you want to reunite with your brother Yi?" Xiao Guai burst into tears. "But what should I do? I really like Uncle Shen." Xiao Bao felt very guilty. He actually made his sister cry. He quickly jumped off the chair and patted her shoulder to comfort her. "Don't cry, Gigai. Even if Uncle Shen isn't our daddy, he will still love us." Xiao Guai looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Really?" Little Treasure nodded heavily. "Of course it's true." Xiao Guai sobbed and hesitated for a long time. "All right then. I also agree to Uncle Bailey being my daddy." The two little guys looked at Xia Dong together. Xia Dong took a tissue and wiped her daughter's tears, pretending not to see the desire in their eyes. "Mommy," Xiao Bao hugged Xia Dong's arm and started to act cute. "Can you and Daddy make up?" Xia Dong was helpless. "Baby, don't be like this. Bailey Han and I are very complicated. In short, we can't be together." "Isn't it just the old madam? Just you wait. I have a way to make her agree." Xiao Bao patted his chest confidently. Xia Dong was speechless. She thought of something more important. "Baby Gigai, you must not let others know that you are Bailey Han's children. Do you understand?" Xiao Guai pouted. Her eyes were wet and she looked pitiful. "But I also want to be like other children and have mommy and daddy." "Gigai, I'm sorry." Xia Dong hugged her, her heart aching. She didn't know how to explain. For the first time, she doubted her own idea of not getting married. Was she too selfish? Because she was timid and didn't dare to trust men, she deprived her children of the right to enjoy their father's love. Beauty novel Xinwu 799. Chapter 179. Mom, just believe in Bailey Han. "Oh no, Daddy, just this once. I think Daddy is a good person. He won't lie to you." Xiao Bao's soft little body rubbed against her as she spoke up for Bailey Han. Sigh, it felt strange to call him Daddy for the first time. The children's tender voices hit her heart again and again. She gradually began to waver. Two little people appeared in her mind. One of them kept persuading her, "Believe in him. Believe in him. Give him a chance." The other little person retorted angrily, "You can't believe in him. Men can't be trusted. They're all animals who think with their lower bodies." The little person from before disagreed. "Bailey Han is different from those men. If he really only thinks with his lower body, he wouldn't have hit his head and bled from the aphrodisiac last time." Her rationality and indifference collapsed at this moment. She gritted her teeth and steeled her heart. She said, "Okay, I'll give him a chance." On the other side, Bailey Han was having dinner with Xiao Yi. He thought for a moment and probed, "Xiao Yi, what do you think of Auntie Xia Dong?" Xiao Yi puffed up her cheeks and thought for a moment. She said expressionlessly, "Not bad." "Not bad?" This answer was very general. Bailey Han frowned and asked again, "Then if your mommy was like Chief Editor Xia, would you like her?" Xiao Yi's mouth twitched. "Daddy, just say that you want to marry Auntie Xia Dong. Isn't that enough?" "Just take it as that's what I meant." Bailey Han was speechless. Was he being despised by his own son? Xiao Yi secretly curved her lips. I won't object. Actually, he had already heard from Xiao Bao that Daddy and Mommy had already registered their marriage at the Civil Affairs Bureau. He was now a child with Mommy. No, he hadn't accepted that woman yet. Bailey Han finally shattered the stone in his heart. He coughed and said, "Actually, we have already registered our marriage." Xiao Yi looked indifferent. "Oh, congratulations. How did his son become so indifferent?" When he found out that he was going to marry Su Yinqian, he made a huge fuss. Bailey Han felt a chill run down his spine. He touched his forehead and asked worriedly, "Xiao Yi, do you have a fever?" Xiao Yi grinned, revealing her cute little white teeth. "No, I'm fine." Bailey Han was still puzzled. He carefully observed his son and did not see any dissatisfaction. Instead, he looked very happy. When he went upstairs after dinner, he even hummed a little tune. Only then did he feel relieved. He truly believed that his son had accepted the fact that he was married to Xia Dong. At 9 o'clock in the evening, Bailey Han called. Once she decided to give him a chance, Xia Dong had a strange feeling in her heart when she was with him. For example, when he smiled, she could feel his smile even though she couldn't see his face. Her mood also became lighter. When he said that he missed her, her heart would race and she would involuntarily imagine his handsome face. God, was she going to fall so soon? Xia Dong patted his burning face. On the other end of the phone, Bailey Han heard a suspicious sound and asked, "What's wrong?" She laughed dryly. "I'm swatting mosquitoes." He chuckled and said, "I just told Xiao Yi about us." He paused abominably. Xia Dong couldn't help but feel nervous. She asked nervously, "Then what did he say?" Xiao Yi hated her so much. He definitely wouldn't agree. He definitely wouldn't. Bailey Han chuckled softly. "Xiao Yi said that he congratulated us." She couldn't believe it. Really? Really? He was in a good mood, but he was a little regretful that he couldn't see her expression at this moment. "I think that when we live together in the future, Xiao Yi might agree to call you Mommy. He seems to like you a lot." Xia Dong's eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She pinched the back of her hand. It hurt. She really wasn't dreaming. Xiao Yi was willing to accept her. However, before she could be happy for a minute, old Madame's cold and heartless face suddenly appeared in her mind, along with her cold ultimatum. She gripped the phone tightly and said in a nervous voice, "Bailey Han, do you really have a way to convince your family?" He chuckled softly. "Wifey, you have to believe in your husband's ability." She kicked her toes in a panic. "Then it's getting late. Hurry up and go to sleep." "I am hanging up." "Don't hang up yet. I want to hear you call me." He lay down comfortably on the sofa and began the most boring conversation between a prostitute. "I don't want to." She sniffed her little nose arrogantly. He threatened, "If you don't call me, I'll punish you tomorrow. You know what I mean by punishment." She was furious. "If you dare to punish me, we'll get a divorce." Bailey Han imagined her blushing face and was in such a good mood that he didn't know what to say. From time to time he would let out a low chuckle. Xia Dong deeply felt that she had been mocked by him. She didn't even say goodnight and hung up the phone. Why did this man become so shameless after getting married? He was the legendary man who was cold on the outside but passionate on the inside. Xia Dong felt like she had jumped into a fire pit. Bailey Han wanted to investigate why Madame Gu's family members were so against Xia Dong. It would be useless to investigate from Madame Gu's side. He thought about it and called his most trusted subordinate in the Dragon Gang, Ahu. He asked Ahu to investigate Xia Dong's past and the feud between her and Bailey's family. He had actually suspected that he and Xia Dong knew each other 5 years ago. Perhaps, the results of the investigation could solve all the mysteries. He went to the hospital where Xiao Guai was hospitalized last time and said a lot of good things to the doctor. He also showed the doctor his marriage certificate with Xia Dong. Only then did the doctor tell him about Xiao Guai's illness. "Doctor, can Xiao Guai's illness be cured?" Bailey Han didn't expect Xiao Guai to have such a serious illness. He was worried and his heart ached for Xia Dong. "We can perform an umbilical cord blood transplant." Bailey Han's eyes were sharp. "Then why don't we perform the surgery?" "We need your wife to give birth to a child with the same genes as Xiao Guai. We need to extract the newborn's umbilical cord blood and perform the transplant. Your wife is already pregnant. After she gives birth, we can perform the surgery." The doctor didn't understand why Bailey Han, as Xia Dong's husband, didn't know about the child's illness and his wife's pregnancy. However, he was curious at most and didn't dare to ask. Bailey Han's breathing stopped instantly. His deep eyes were filled with unprecedented shock. All the information intertwined in his mind. A child with the same genes, Xiao Guai's illness, and the remaining image of him and Xia Dong in his mind. All these things were mixed together and kept spinning in his mind. His hands and feet started to turn cold. All the blood in his body rushed to his head. His head suddenly hurt. He hugged his head and leaned back in his chair in pain. The doctor was shocked by his pale face. "Mr. Bailey, are you okay?" Bailey Han bit his lower lip tightly. He resisted the headache and couldn't say a word. "Mr. Bailey?" The doctor called twice, but he didn't respond. Just as he was about to call the nurse in, Bailey Han suddenly stood up and walked out of the door with a blank expression. He didn't know when the pain in his head subsided. Bailey Han didn't even know how he walked out of the doctor's office. He was like a walking corpse, sitting blankly in the corridor for a long time. In the end, he smashed his fist on the chair, stood up with a whoosh and walked out in large strides. His entire body emitted a terrifying aura, and his pair of eyes that were as deep as a cold pond were bottomless, accumulating a turbulent storm. Xia Dong was teaching Xiao Guai how to draw when she suddenly heard the urgent sound of the doorbell. When she opened the door, Bailey Han was standing in front of her like a cold Satan. He exuded a terrifying aura and she couldn't help but take a step back. "What happened?" He stared at her. His gaze was as sharp as a knife and he couldn't wait to cut into her skin. "What's the matter with you?" Xia Dong felt her hair stand on end from his stare. She had a bad feeling. He glanced at Xiao Guai, who was sitting in the living room and staring at him curiously. He pursed his lips and said in a cold voice, "Go to your room. Gigai, go back to your room first. Mommy will teach you how to draw later." Xia Dong reminded him and followed Bailey Han into her room. "Bailey Han, what's the matter with you?" He was too scary when he didn't say a word. He stared at her with anger and pain in his eyes. "Why did you lie to me?" She gritted her teeth. "Tell me clearly. When did I lie to you?" He held her shoulders with both hands and his voice was as cold as ice. "Xiao Guai's illness requires the blood of a child with the same genes. And you are pregnant with my child now. Xia Dong, do I need to say more? Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao are my children, aren't they?" He almost shouted the last sentence. He had never been so angry or so pained before. She had actually lied to him. He had never expected that they would have such a past. He gripped her shoulders agitatedly. His hands were like iron claws, gripping her shoulders painfully. She didn't struggle or retort. The lie that she had covered up for so long was finally exposed. It was as if her soul had been sucked out of her and she had lost her luster and spirit. She grinned. "You've already found out. That's good too. I don't want to hide it anymore. It's been so hard. Tell me what happened back then. What was going on with little Wingzy? Why did you lie to me?" Bailey Han was agitated. His questions bombarded her like a cannonball. She laughed hysterically until tears flowed out of her eyes. "Okay, I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you everything." Since she had been exposed, there was no need for her to hide it anymore. She told him everything about how she stole his seed, how she was framed and fled to Japan, how Xiao Guai was sick and had no choice but to return to China to seduce him. She told him everything. After telling him everything, her tears dried up and she was numb and expressionless. Attention Songshu 566. Chapter 180. Now you've seen my true colors. It's completely different from what you imagined, isn't it? Will you still love me? If the answer is no, let's get a divorce. His face was already ashen and his entire person was like a statue. Only the eerie coldness in his eyes made people feel that he was still alive. He pursed his thin lips tightly and didn't say a word. She smiled coldly and searched around the room expressionlessly. She found her identity card and household register. "Let's go. We'll go through the divorce procedures now." She turned to leave, but he suddenly grabbed her arm from behind. She was caught off guard and fell into his embrace. His deep and cold voice was filled with anger. "You heartless woman. Because of you Xiao Yi lost 4 years of motherly love. Because of you he was lonely for 4 years. Do you know that?" I know. I've let Xiao Yi down and I've let you down. So, Bailey Han, you see, I've already received my retribution. I abandoned my son and my daughter fell seriously ill. I had no choice but to come back. I abandoned my pride and abandoned myself. I humbly approached you and shamelessly seduced you." Tears streamed down her face. She was out of breath and choked with sobs. Damn it. He should hate her. Why did his heart feel like it was being cut by a knife when he heard her trampling on him with those words? Shut up. Don't say anything else. He fiercely punched the wall. The skin on the back of his hand was scraped and bleeding, but he didn't feel the pain because the pain in his heart had long suppressed the pain in his body. Bailey Han, your hand? She went forward, wanting to check the wound on his hand. Get lost. I don't want you to care about me. Bailey Han was like an angry lion. He slapped her right hand away and there was immediately a red mark on the back of her fair hand. He flew into a rage and his entire body was filled with cold anger. Like lightning, he rushed out of the room and slammed the door with a bang. Facing the empty room, Xia Dong slumped onto the sofa. The calmness that he had forced himself to maintain immediately collapsed, and tears streamed down his face. She knew that once the truth was exposed, he would mercilessly dump her. She was right. But why was she so sad? Why was her heart aching? Bailey Han's angry roar and the sound of the door slamming had already alerted the two children. Xiao Bao coaxed his sister back to her room and knocked on Xia Dong's door, calling out, "Mommy, mommy." Xia Dong wiped away the tears on her face and calmed herself down before opening the door. "Mommy, did you guys fight?" Xiao Bao's tender face was filled with worry. She bit her lip and squeezed out an ugly smile. "No, we just have some disagreements." They were clearly quarreling and their voices were very loud. Mommy had even cried and her eyes were red. Xiao Bao's heart ached. Although she didn't know why they were quarreling, she still hated Bailey Han to the core. It was all his fault for making Mommy sad. She really didn't know if bringing them together was the right thing to do. Xiao Bao puffed up her cheeks and sighed silently. "Mommy, have a good rest. I will take care of Gigai." Xiao Bao knew that she buried everything in her heart, so she didn't ask any more. After returning to her room and thinking about it, she was still worried, so she called Yi Siki and told him about it. Yi Siki still didn't know that Xia Dong and Bailey Han had registered their marriage. When she heard Xiao Bao say this, she was so shocked that she jumped up from the sofa. She didn't have time to ask about the quarrel and rushed to Xia Dong's house with Nyonyo. Yi Siki let Nyonyo play with Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai while she dragged Xia Dong into her room. Seeing that her eyes were red, she asked carefully, Xia, what happened? Did you and Bailey Han quarrel?" Xia Dong didn't say a word, but her tears started falling. Yi Siki suddenly panicked. She quickly hugged her shoulders and comforted her. Xia, don't cry. Did Bailey Han scold you? It's okay. You know that he has a bad temper. Please don't take it to heart." Xia Dong wiped her tears and choked out, "Yezi, he knows? He knows everything. He must hate me to death now." Yi Siki was shocked. She knew that the situation was serious. She sighed and said, Xia, you should explain things clearly. When he understands your difficulties, I think he will forgive you." Even she herself felt that she didn't have enough confidence in the last sentence. Xia Dong cried until she was out of breath. He won't forgive me. He told me to get lost and not to care about him." She covered her mouth with her right hand and sobbed uncomfortably. Yi Siki saw the red mark on the back of her hand and her eyes narrowed. "What happened to your hand? Did he hit you?" Xia Dong covered her mouth and didn't say a word. Yi Siki's anger suddenly surged. She gritted her teeth and said, "That damned bastard. How dare he hit a woman? I misjudged him." If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have helped him in the first place. She was very upset. Xia Dong sobbed, Actually, he didn't do it on purpose. You're still speaking up for him?" Yi Siki was so angry that her teeth were about to shatter. She stood up and said angrily, "You rest at home. I'll go look for him and make him give me an explanation. He hit his wife right after they got married. No matter how angry he was, he shouldn't have done such a thing. Was he still a man?" Xia Dong hugged her arm and said, Yizi, don't go. He told me not to care about him. I don't want to get close to him and humiliate myself again. She had wanted to give him a chance at the beginning. She had thought that she was crazy and had lost her mind. She would never get close to him and make him hate her again. After being stopped by her, Yi Siki gradually calmed down. She held her arm and said, "Let me apply the ointment for you first." Xia Dong's skin was sensitive to begin with. Even if she held her arm tightly, there would still be red marks on her wrist. Not to mention, Bailey Han's angry slap had caused the red marks to be blood red and a little swollen. After applying the ointment on the back of her hand, Xia Dong's emotions gradually calmed down. Yi Siki patted her shoulder and said, "Let's go. I'll take you out to have some fun and relax." Xia Dong smiled bitterly and said, "What about the child? Are you stupid? Send him to your aunt's house and ask her to take care of him for a while. Forget it. I don't want to trouble my aunt. Isiki stared at her and said, Then why are you sitting at home so sadly? What if the child finds out? Did you know? When Xiaobao called me just now, he was so worried that he was about to cry. Go out and relax. The sooner you recover, the better you'll be able to take care of the child. Xia Dong felt bad when she thought about how the children were worried about her. In the end, she agreed to Isiki's suggestion. She put on some makeup to hide her red eyes, changed her clothes and tidied her hair. The 2 adults and the 3 children drove to Xia Yun's house. After Gao Mingyuan went to work, Xia Yun was alone at home. She couldn't wait for the children to stay at home and accompany her every day. She happily welcomed the children into the house. Yizi, what are we going to do now? She had been taking care of the children all these years. Now that she was alone, she didn't know how to pass the time. Go shopping, go to the beauty salon, eat, watch movies, karaoke, go to the bar. There are so many choices. We can do them one by one. Isiki hadn't gone out with her best friend for a long time. First, they went to the beauty salon for a spa. Then they went shopping like crazy. They bought a bunch of things and piled them in the back seat of the car. If it weren't for the fact that Xia Dong was pregnant, the 2 of them would have continued shopping. In the evening, they found a very stylish Western restaurant. The 2 women had a romantic time together, which attracted the attention of many couples. They suspected that their relationship was unusual. After the 2 of them came out, they pointed at each other's noses and laughed heartily. It was as if they hadn't laughed so happily in a long time. Let's go. I'll take you to karaoke now. Isiki patted her chest heroically and carried Xia Dong into a karaoke place in high spirits. The 2 women hugged each other's shoulders and roared out love songs one after another. The waiter who delivered the drinks couldn't help but look sideways. His hand even trembled when he put down the drinks. There were many opportunities to see comrades, but this was the first time he saw Les Lace. He was so excited. The 2 of them sang for more than an hour. When they were tired, they lay on the sofa and laughed foolishly. Isiki went to the bathroom and came back to find Xia Dong curled up in the corner of the sofa, asleep. She shook her head with heartache. She was probably too tired. Isiki nudged her shoulder. Xia, don't sleep. I'll take you home. Xia Dong rubbed her eyes in a daze. Her but leaned against the front passenger seat and she fell asleep again. Isiki finally got her home. Then she called Bailey Han and asked him where he was. She wanted to see him. Charm Bar. Bailey Han's face was gloomy as he drank glass after glass of alcohol sullenly. Xiao Tianxing couldn't stand it anymore. He sat down beside him and snatched the glass from his hand. An, what the hell happened? You're so cold that it's comparable to the Antarctic icebergs. Bailey Han glanced coldly at the glass in his hand. Give it to me. Stop drinking. If you keep drinking, I'm worried you'll have stomach bleeding. Xiao Tianxing rarely saw him drink so heavily. To be exact, this was the second time. The first time he drank so sullenly was 5 years ago, when Su Yunxian went to England. If he snatched his glass, he could just grab another one. Bailey Han stretched out his long arm and took an empty glass from the bar. He poured vodka into the glass and poured it into his mouth. Xiao Tianxing couldn't help but frown. If he continued drinking like this, he would collapse soon. An. Xiao Tianxing patted him on the shoulder. Go away. Don't worry about me. Bailey Han swatted his arm away and downed another glass of wine. His gaze was as cold as a lake as he stared at him. I've always treated you as a friend, but I didn't expect that you would lie to me with them. Xiao Tianxing was shocked. Where did that come from? When have I ever lied to you? He sneered. Do you remember when I asked you if you knew Xia Dong? What did you say to Ayun? You said that you and Xia Dong were old friends and that you pursued her. Why don't you say that we were old friends? Awesome novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 181. Xiao Tianxing's cold gaze was like a nail that was ruthlessly hammered into his body. His forehead was covered in cold sweat as he stammered, Ahan, why you remember now? Bailey Han said coldly, even if I didn't remember, I already know the truth. Why did you hide it from me? Xiao Tianxing frowned miserably. He wanted to find an excuse but couldn't come up with one at that moment. He was anxious. He's just ttt. He stammered for a long time. Bailey Han didn't rush him. He just stared at him with a cold gaze, leaving him with nowhere to hide. God, when had he, Xiao Tianxing, ever been in such a sorry state? Just as Xiao Tianxing was complaining, A beautiful woman in a light yellow dress rushed over angrily. Without saying a word, she slapped Bailey Han across the face. What was going on? Not only was Bailey Han stunned, Xiao Tianxing was also stunned. Bailey Han was the first to react. He grabbed the woman's hand and said angrily, "Yi Siki, are you crazy?" Yi Siki said angrily, "Me crazy? That slap was for Xia Xia. Bailey Han, are you still a man? How dare you hit Xia Xia?" Bailey Han's anger was stuck in his throat. When did I hit her? If you didn't hit her, then what's with the bruise on the back of her hand? Something flashed past Bailey Han's mind, and his expression changed. That's right, she wanted to pull him back in the afternoon, but he flung her arm away. Guilt and heartache surged into his heart. He didn't do it on purpose. He was just angry and didn't know how to control his strength. Isiki saw his expression and knew that he had remembered. She said coldly, "You remember now? Bailey Han, I shouldn't have helped you back then. I thought you were true to Xia Xia. I didn't expect you to hurt her like this." Even if Mika Kito is in the underworld, he didn't lay a finger on Xia Xia. Bailey Han was a proud son of God. When had he ever been lectured like this? He immediately pulled a long face, but he couldn't explain what had happened. He felt aggrieved. I was true to her. She was the one who lied to me first. I didn't hit her on purpose. Xiao Tianxing saw that they were at daggers drawn, so he quickly said, "Miss Yi, right? You must be Xia Dong's good friend. Please don't misunderstand. Han really likes Xia Dong. He wouldn't hurt her on purpose." Yi Siki wasn't an unreasonable person. When she saw Bailey Han's guilty gaze, she knew that he didn't do it on purpose. However, she had already given him a slap just now, so she naturally had to put on airs. Otherwise, it would seem that she was being unreasonable. She snorted coldly. "Bailey Han, you keep saying that Xia Dong lied to you. Do you know why she did that?" Bailey Han's expression was cold as he waited for her answer. "Your old lady used the lives of Xia Xia's aunt and uncle to threaten Xia Xia. She said that if she didn't give her the children, she would stab her in the back. How do you expect Xia Xia to choose?" The old lady didn't know that Xia Xia was pregnant with 3 children. She took away the firstborn Xiao Yi, and Xia Xia had a hard time keeping Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. In order to save Xiao Guai, she had no choice but to return to China. She originally wanted to borrow your sperm to give birth to the children through IVF, but you lost your memory and didn't believe what she said. Think about it carefully. Is that true? Bailey Han's mind suddenly exploded, and many images flooded his mind. She did say that her daughter was sick and asked her to help her, but he thought she was lying and even said many outrageous things to humiliate her. Saving Xiao Guai was urgent, but Xia Xia couldn't gain your trust. Other than stealing your sperm, what else could she do? Actually, she was very conflicted and in pain. She hid what happened in the past because she didn't want to ruin your relationship with Su Yunqian. Yi Siki became more agitated as she spoke. "Bailey Han, you still don't know, right? While she was trying to get close to you, your old lady kept giving her trouble and telling her to stay away from you. As a woman, do you know how much pressure she was under and how much humiliation she suffered?" She practically shouted the last sentence at him. Her eyes were red as she raised her chin proudly to maintain her pride. It was as if by doing this she could maintain Xia Dong's self-esteem. "I've said everything that needs to be said. Don't think that other than you no one else wants Xia Xia. Mika Kito has been pursuing her for 5 years. After saying this, Yi Siki proudly turned around and left the 2 men with her beautiful back view. Yi Siki was very agitated and hurried away. She didn't notice that there was a couple sitting in the corner of the bar. The man was her husband, Lin Shihao, and the woman was Bai Mei Wei. Bai Mei Wei seemed to be troubled by something as she drank until her eyes were hazy. Lin Shihao was trying to grab her glass and persuade her to drink less. Bailey Han was shocked by Yi Siki's words. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. He clenched his fists tightly and his deep eyes were as dark as water. Xiao Tianxing couldn't help but exclaim, "Yi Siki, although this woman is a little fierce, she's still quite interesting. She was willing to sacrifice herself for a friend." A hint of admiration rose in his eyes. He was still chattering when Bailey Han suddenly broke into a run. "On, where are you going?" Xiao Tianxing quivered. He couldn't be going to look for Xia Dong, right? He hurriedly chased after him and shouted, "You're drunk. You can't drive. Send me back." The cold-faced god finally rewarded him with 3 words. Yi Siki returned home. Her daughter, Nyonyo, had already been sent home by Xiayun. She was lying on the bed, asleep. Lin Shihao hadn't returned yet. She called him, but he only answered after a long time. His voice was very low. "Honey, I'm working overtime tonight. You sleep first. I'm okay. Drive carefully. Yi Siki didn't suspect anything. She reminded him a few more times before hanging up. Lin Shihao turned his head to look at the drunk by Mei Wei in the front passenger seat. He sighed. He had actually lied to Siki. He had almost subconsciously lied. He comforted himself that he didn't want Siki to misunderstand. Bai Mei Wei was nestled in the seat. She wasn't sleeping very well. She frowned and murmured softly, "Senior. Senior." Lin Shihao rubbed his brows and leaned over to buckle her seatbelt. When he got up, she suddenly raised her head. The two of them bumped into each other and their mouths touched. Her soft lips touched his. He got up in a panic, but she suddenly reached out and hugged his waist tightly. Her nimble tongue gently teased his lips. Hot and passionate breaths lingered between the two of them. He panted heavily and pushed her away forcefully. She opened her misty eyes. They were watery and she looked very lovable. "Senior, I like you. I like you so much." Lin Shihao's heart thumped wildly in his chest. He straightened his body. "Mei Wei, you're drunk. I'll take you back." "I'm not drunk, I really like you." Bai Mei Wei was on the verge of tears, her pink lips slightly pouting. "It's because I like you that I messed up the blind date my daddy arranged, and that's why I was scolded by my daddy? So this was the reason why she was in a bad mood and dragged him to drink." Lin Shihao sighed. "Mei Wei, don't say any more. You're drunk." He would forget all these words. He couldn't betray his wife. He wanted to start the car, but Bai Mei Wei suddenly turned to the side and hugged his arm. She said pitifully, "Senior, I like you. I don't ask for status. I just want to be with you." "Mei Wei," Lin Shihao pushed her away with a headache. "I'll just take it that you're drunk. Don't say these words again. I won't betray my wife." Bai Mei Wei had only confessed under the guise of alcohol. Being rejected by him so harshly, she felt terrible and started to sob. He pulled out a tissue and handed it to her, but she didn't take it. She turned to face the window and cried quietly. She didn't understand what was wrong with her. She was young, beautiful, and capable. On the other hand, although Yi Siki was very beautiful, she was obviously a haggard woman. What did she have that made Lin Shihao so devoted to her? The more Bai Mei Wei thought about it, the more indignant she felt. She gritted her teeth and swore to herself that she would capture Lin Shihao's heart. They sped all the way. Xiao Tianxing sent Bailey Han to Xia Dong's apartment building. Bailey Han was already a little drunk. When he got out of the car, he was already staggering. Xiao Tianxing wanted to help him, but he pushed him away. He frowned and said, "You go back. I'll go up myself." "All right then. Call me if you need anything." Xiao Tianxing knew his temper and didn't insist. Bailey Han waved casually and turned to go upstairs. Xiao Tianxing didn't leave immediately. He sat in the driver's seat and watched him enter the building. Standing in front of Xia Dong's apartment building, Bailey Han rubbed his eyebrows and tried to sober himself up. He pressed the doorbell. The doorbell rang for a long time, but no one answered. He got a little impatient and took out his cell phone to call Xia Dong. The phone rang for a long time, but still no one answered. He supported himself with one hand against the wall and dialed again and again. Suddenly the call went through. Xia Dong's groggy voice came through. "Hello, who is this?" Bailey Han said calmly, "Your husband." Xia Dong was in a daze when she was woken up by the phone call. Her IQ was close to 0. She scratched her head and asked in confusion, "Which husband?" Bailey Han immediately exploded. What did she mean by, which husband? How many husbands did she think she had? He shouted angrily, "Xia Dong, open the door." Xia Dong was finally woken up by his shout. She sniffled and said, "What are you doing here?" Bailey Han's old face turned red. He was too embarrassed to admit that he felt sorry for her over the phone. He was here to apologize, which didn't match his brilliant image. He coughed and said, "Anyway, open the door first." She bit her lip and said, "Go back. I won't open the door." After saying this, she hung up the phone without hesitation. Soon the phone rang again. When she saw that it was him, she hung up again. After hanging up twice in a row, she was annoyed. She turned off her phone and lay down to continue sleeping. Awesome novel Songshu 566. Chapter 182. Bailey Han's anger was burning fiercely. That damned woman actually dared to hang up on him. He couldn't be bothered to press the doorbell anymore. He banged on the door loudly. As he banged on the door, he shouted at the top of his lungs, Xiaodong, open the door. I won't open it, I won't open it. When Xiaodong heard his roar, she felt even more uncomfortable. She wrapped her head tightly with the blanket and pretended not to hear anything. Xiao Bao was woken up by the noise. He jumped out of bed in a daze and ran to the door. Through the peephole, he saw Bailey Han slamming the door angrily. He was also angry and shouted angrily, Bailey Han, why are you still looking for my mommy? Go away. Bailey Han stopped slamming the door and said, Bao Bao, open the door for daddy. You're not my daddy. How dare he bully his mommy? He didn't want to acknowledge him. Bailey Han was already drunk and had a terrible headache. He leaned against the wall and said, Bao Bao, stop fooling around. I have something to say to your mommy. But my mommy doesn't want to see you. Xiao Bao was definitely on his mommy's side. Bailey Han decided to use force since the soft approach didn't work. He said fiercely, Xiao Bao, I'm your daddy. Don't you want to be reunited with your family? Xiao Bao snorted and said, if you don't treat mommy well, I'd rather be like this. Bailey Han was helpless. He rubbed his eyebrows and said, I won't do it again. Xiao Bao, open the door. I'm drunk. He felt like a failure. In front of his son, he had completely lost his dignity as a father. Xiao Bao saw that his son's pained expression didn't seem fake. He hesitated for a moment before opening the door. Bailey Han walked in, his feet floating. Xiao Bao glared at him and said, you're not allowed to bully my mommy again. Bailey Han patted his head. Xiao Bao, call me daddy. I don't want to. I haven't acknowledged you yet. Xiao Bao scowled and ran back to his room. Xiaodong did not hear a knock on the door for a long time. She poked her head out of the quilt and listened carefully. She still did not hear a sound. She was relieved but also a little disappointed. He must have gone back. After thinking about it, she was still a little worried. She took a shawl and put it on, intending to go out and take a look. Just as she opened the door, she bumped into a pair of dark and deep eyes. Bailey Han's tall and straight body was standing at the door of her room, his whole body exuding the smell of alcohol. She was stunned for a moment. When she came back to her senses, she quickly closed the door. However, her actions were still one step too slow. He held the door open with one hand. His handsome face was expressionless as he stared straight at her. His stare made her feel a little scared. She turned her face away. Why are you here? Didn't I already make myself clear? If it's because of the divorce, I can go to the Civil Affairs Bureau with you tomorrow. Before she could finish speaking, he had already hugged her tightly. Bailey Han, who usually spoke in a cold voice, was guilty and helpless for the first time. He was simply like a rascal as he clung onto her tightly. I'm not getting a divorce. I won't allow you to divorce me. His chest was broad and warm, and she could hear his heart beating very fast. She said indifferently, you told me to scram, so I don't care about you. I'll just scram and never come back again. He lowered his head to look at her. Her eyes were lowered, her long eyelashes casting light shadows on her eyelids. Her whole body exuded a distant and indifferent aura. He panicked and his heart ached. He actually hurt her like that. Wifey, I said it in a moment of anger. Don't take it seriously. He hugged her very tightly, afraid that she would run away. When he wanted to coax her, she was his wifey. When he was angry, he told her to get lost. She no longer dared to trust him. Her eyes were covered with a layer of mist as she said softly, Bailey Han, let's get a divorce. You see, I've done so many things to let you down. You can't forgive me. The gap between us is insurmountable. Rather than suffering in the future, it's better to end it early. He declared domineeringly, I won't divorce you. Don't even think about it. You hate me, don't you? Yes, I hate you. I hate you for hiding so many things from me. He held her face and looked at her tear-filled eyes. He said emotionally, but I hate you even more for not making things clear. You're clearly carrying so much pain. Why don't you let me bear it with you? Did she think that by hiding it from him he would be happy? No, he wouldn't. He would only feel regret because the woman he loved deeply still didn't trust him enough and didn't dare to open her heart to him. She wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and pushed his arm. You go back first. Let me have some peace and quiet. You should think about it. She thought that he was drunk and said drunken words. Who knew when she woke up tomorrow he might tell her to get lost again. She was a timid person when it came to relationships. She didn't want to be hurt again when hope was rekindled. I'm not leaving. How could he bear to let go of her warm and fragrant body? He was already drunk and groggy. He thought that he had explained it clearly, so he didn't force himself. He felt comfortable and relaxed. Xiaodong pushed him for a long time but he didn't move. She looked up and saw that he had fallen asleep with her in his arms. She really wanted to leave him here but she couldn't bear to do so. After dragging him to her bed with much difficulty, she found the clean pajamas that Mika Kito had left behind when she stayed here. After much effort, she helped him change into them and wiped him down with a towel. Xiaodong was so tired that she was panting. He was occupying her bed, so she had no choice but to move the foldable bed from the storage room over. After laying it down, she pulled out the pillow that she was used to sleeping on from under his head and stuffed a new pillow under his head. After tossing and turning, she could finally sleep. But she didn't feel sleepy anymore. Her eyes were full of energy as she looked at the moonlight outside the window. A lot of worries popped up in her head, but before she could sort them out, she heard Bailey Han calling her name in his drunken stupor. Xia Xia. Xia Xia. Xiaodong originally wanted to ignore him, but when she heard his voice, it sounded like he was in more and more pain. She turned on the bedside lamp and found that his forehead was full of sweat. His brows were tightly knitted and his eyes were tightly shut. But his expression was panicked as if he was having a nightmare. She couldn't help but reach out and wipe the sweat off his forehead. She didn't know that at this moment, Bailey Han's mind was filled with fragmented images. One of the images was of him answering a phone call while driving. On the other end of the phone was Xiaodong's voice. She said that she was at the airport and that she was leaving. Bailey Han stepped on the accelerator in exasperation and collided with an oncoming truck. He sat up in bed, his chest heaving violently as he anxiously called out, "Xia Xia Xia Xia." Xiaodong didn't expect him to sit up so suddenly and was shocked. His eyes were still closed so he didn't seem to be awake. She couldn't help but crawl over and hug him. Patting his back she said, "It's okay. I'm here." He hugged her instinctively and hugged her tightly. He muttered unconsciously, don't leave." Tears fell without warning. She choked and hugged him tightly. "Okay, I won't leave again. I won't leave again." She patted his back and coaxed him gently as if she was coaxing a child. He finally lay down again after much difficulty. She wanted to pull away but he hugged her tightly. In order not to wake him up, she could only follow his movements and lie down beside him. Turning sideways, she looked at his high nose bridge, exquisite facial features and furrowed brows. She couldn't help but reach out to rub the creases between his eyebrows. Leaning against his firm and broad chest, she didn't know how much time had passed before she actually fell asleep. The next morning, Xiaodong opened her eyes. Her brain wasn't completely awake yet, but she still felt that something was wrong. Her back was leaning against a warm wall, and there was a large hand that was obviously a man's wrapped around her chest. She turned her head stiffly, and a handsome face suddenly entered her line of sight. Bailey Han woke up the moment she turned around. His pair of dark eyes had the typical confusion of the morning, but very quickly, a gentle smile appeared on his face as he hugged her even tighter. The problem was that one of his hands was on her chest. Thus, this first level of strength attacked her chest. Xiaodong glared at him fiercely and gritted her little white teeth. "Take your hand back." Bailey Han blinked innocently. "I was just casually putting it there." What a soft touch. He couldn't help but rub it again. Xiaodong flew into a rage out of humiliation. She grabbed his naughty hand and threw it aside. She turned around to leave, but he stretched out his long arm and pulled her into his embrace. He leaned close to her ear and said in a husky voice, "Wifey, you slept with me last night. You have to be responsible for me." Xiaodong was furious. "Bailey Han, can you be any more shameless? You were the one who grabbed my hand last night and didn't let go. Also, you were drunk last night. I was kind enough to take you in. Since you're awake now, you can change your clothes and leave." He smirked and a mischievous smile flashed across his eyes. "Wifey, if you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. Were you the one who changed my clothes?" She was furious. Who else do you think would have done it? She was exhausted just to change his clothes for him. He chuckled softly. "If that's the case, then you have to be responsible for me. You've even seen my body." Xiaodong was so angry that her words were stuck in her throat. After a long while she squeezed out 2 words. "Shameless." He patted her head to soothe her. "So, we can't get a divorce because you have to be responsible for me?" After all this time, he had been waiting for her. She stared into his eyes and said sternly, "Bailey Han, you were drunk last night so you might not remember what I said. I'll say it again. Let's both be quiet and think about it. I've already thought it through. You lied to me and I hurt you. We're even now. So, wifey, let's live happily from now on." His heart still felt like it was being stabbed by a knife when he recalled the shameless words he had said to her before. Beauty novel Hongcha 866. Chapter 183. Xia Dong hung her head. I don't know. Let me think about it. Bailey Han firmly held her shoulders and said domineeringly, I won't give you another chance to escape. Do you know how heartbroken I was when you escaped 5 years ago? Although it was just a memory fragment, he remembered how he felt at that time. You remember now? He gritted his teeth. Idiot, that's not the point. The point is that I won't let go again. If I give you time to think about it, you'll only run away more and more. He, Bailey Han, had created his own business empire without relying on his family's concealment. He could do whatever he wanted in the business world, but the only problem he couldn't solve was her problem. A sense of defeat arose spontaneously, but more than that, he became braver and braver as he moved forward courageously. She bit her lip and kicked her toes, not daring to look him in the eye. He hugged her tightly in his arms and sighed silently. You coward. What am I going to do with you? She hung her head and remained silent. He rubbed his chin against her soft hair and whispered, Xia, I regret not investigating your background earlier. That way you wouldn't have been alone for so long. Tears welled up in her eyes. You must have suffered a lot in the past few years taking care of Xiaobao and Xiaoguai by yourself, right? He kissed her hair lovingly. There were tears in his eyes and his voice was low and hoarse. Wifey, I'm sorry that I only found you now. A drop of cold tear fell on her head. Although she couldn't see it, she felt it. She slowly reached out and hugged his waist. His heart was as soft as the sea. He gently caressed her abdomen and whispered, Wifey, as long as you're back, it's okay if you don't dare to love me. You just have to stay where you are and wait for me to love you. She could no longer hold back her tears. After a long time, she said in a nasal voice, I'm very timid. I won't take that step easily, but once I do, I'll do it without hesitation. Even if the whole world opposes us, I won't back down. However, if you dare to betray me, I will immediately take the children and disappear without a trace, never to appear again. He held her face in his hands and looked into her tear-filled eyes. He said firmly and seriously, Xia Dong, from now on, I will only love you. I will spoil you and love you. I will not lie to you. In my heart, you are the only one. Will you marry me? She smiled tearfully. Aren't we already married? He said helplessly, Can you not be such a killjoy? I'm proposing. Their marriage would require no less than the necessary procedures. She felt wronged. But I didn't see the ring. Young Master Bailey, who had always been full of confidence and high spirits, blushed. Because they were in a hurry to get married, the ring that he had ordered in France hadn't been delivered yet. Bailey Han was too embarrassed to look into her big, pitiful eyes. His face turned even redder, almost turning purple. He said stiffly, I'll get the ring, but you have to agree to my proposal first. Xia Dong glared at him. Are you ordering me? The wise and steady young master actually froze. He coughed and said dryly, Whether you agree or not, I'm already your man. Xia Dong suddenly realized that this man's awkward expression was very amusing. Her mood suddenly brightened and she said with a grin, Without the ring, I won't agree to your proposal. He frowned. Who said that there isn't a ring? It's just that it hasn't been delivered yet. Did he look like the kind of person who would be so stingy as to skip the proposal ring? She held back her laughter and pretended to be serious as she said, Oh, then when the ring arrives, you can propose again. If I'm in a good mood, I'll consider marrying you. He caught the flash of amusement in her eyes and angrily grabbed her slender waist. His eyes narrowed dangerously. Wifey, are you making fun of me? She patted his clothes kindly. You're so wise and mighty. How would I dare to make fun of you? I'm just following my heart. No one said that I have to agree to your proposal. Don't you think so? The corners of her lips turned up high and she looked like she was in a good mood. His lips turned up as well and he stroked her hair. As long as you're happy. He raised his eyebrows and smirked. Anyway, legally speaking, we're already husband and wife. Even if you don't agree to my proposal, it doesn't matter. Xia Dong snorted. Being forced to get married by him was a stain on her life, wasn't it? Don't you have to go to the office? This man stayed at home to eat breakfast, and then hugged Xiaobao and Xiaoguai in his arms. He actually told them a story and the two little fellows listened with great interest. What was going on with this scene of a loving father and filial son, and a happy and harmonious scene? Xiaodong felt sad. Bailey Han stroked the two little heads and said with a smile, "Your mommy is jealous." "Hey, how am I jealous? Since you're not jealous, why can't you wait to chase me out of the house?" He smiled mischievously. The words, "I'm very unhappy. My children have been snatched away," were clearly written on her delicate face. She puffed up her cheeks and glared at him. "If you don't go to work, how are you going to feed us?" "Don't worry. Even if I don't go to the office, I can still feed you and the children." His eyes were full of smiles. How could she be so cute? Even her angry expression was cute. Hey, eldest young master, you've been deeply poisoned. So, you're really not going to the office today? She was still not used to her married status and didn't want to spend too much time with him. It was very awkward. Bailey Han said matter-of-factly, "Yeah, I'll be at home with you and the children today." Xiaodong rolled her eyes and asked, "Then what about Xiao Yi? You should go back and accompany Xiao Yi." He smiled meaningfully. "Don't worry, I'll make the arrangements." 3 hours later, Xiaodong finally understood what he meant when he said he would make the arrangements. The driver, Uncle Wang, carried 2 large suitcases and appeared in front of Xiaodong's house with Xiao Yi. "Xiao Yi, you're here." Xiaodong greeted him nervously. He didn't expect him to answer, but he didn't expect him to curl his lips and reply with a clear, Xiaodong's heart was as sweet as honey. Just as Bailey Han said, Xiao Yi was starting to accept her. She smiled and invited Uncle Wang and Xiao Yi in. She asked curiously, "Uncle Wang, what's in those 2 large suitcases?" Uncle Wang wiped the sweat off his forehead and smiled honestly. "Madam, these are eldest young master and little young master's daily necessities and some clothes." Xiaodong froze. Uncle Wang laughed heartily. "Madam, where are eldest young master and little young master's rooms? I'll bring the luggage in." Xiaodong, who had been stunned for nearly a minute, suddenly stopped Uncle Wang. She glared sharply at Bailey Han with her beautiful eyes. "Bailey Han, what's the meaning of this?" Bailey Han put Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai down and waved at Xiao Yi. The father and son stood together and smiled innocently. "We're a family. Of course we have to stay together." "Stay. Here. Come." Xiaodong was furious, but she didn't flare up in front of Uncle Wang and the children. She suppressed her anger and stared at Bailey Han expressionlessly. "Come with me to the room. Uncle Wang, you should rest first." After returning to the room, Xiaodong immediately flew into a rage. "Bailey Han, did you forget what you promised my aunt? You couldn't announce our marriage to the public and we couldn't stay together. But now, Uncle Wang called me madam, and you brought the luggage here without asking for permission. What do you want?" Don't be agitated. It's not good for the baby in your stomach to be agitated." Bailey Han held her waist and made her sit on the sofa. "Only the people in the villa know about our marriage. They are all people I trust. I just want them to know that you're the mistress of the villa." Xiaodong's anger subsided under his gentle soothing voice. She snorted. "Then how are you going to explain living together?" He hugged her and said gently, "We're a family. We've been separated for so long. Shouldn't we be reunited?" He tempted her. "Don't you want to live with Xiao Yi?" Her heart softened, but she couldn't forget what old madam had said. She sighed and said, "Ahan, there's something I need to confess to you." She looked serious. His heart tightened. "What is it?" "Yesterday, old madam came to me and gave me an ultimatum. If I continue to be entangled with you and meet Xiao Yi again, she will strip Xiao Yi of her inheritance rights and send Xiao Yi to England. She will never let us meet again. She also said that I have to marry Brother Shin within a month." She didn't mean to sow discord between him and old madam. She just wanted to make things clear and let him know the seriousness of the matter. Bailey Han frowned. He didn't expect Grandma to use Xiao Yi to threaten him. He couldn't help but feel lucky. Fortunately, he had caught her and brought her to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register their marriage. Otherwise, she would have become Mika Kito's woman. He hugged her tightly. His dark eyes were as deep as the sea. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. I'll solve it." His chest was so broad that she couldn't help but lean against it. The future made her panic, but with him by her side, her heart miraculously calmed down. She smiled. "I still can't agree to you living here. You promised Aunt that we can only live together after you've solved all the problems in 2 months." He raised his eyebrows. "Who said we're living together? I'll sleep on the sofa in the living room and you'll sleep in the bedroom. We're obviously far apart." She glared at him. "You're changing the concept." He stroked her head and smiled good-naturedly. You're willing to do anything to woo your wife. Welfare Songshu 566. Chapter 184. The corners of Xiaodong's mouth twitched. He softened his tone and looked at her pitifully. Wifey, we've already brought our luggage over. Do you have the heart to chase us out? Chase us out? What a serious word. Why did Xiaodong feel guilty? She tried to find other reasons to make him back off. My place is very cramped. I don't have any extra rooms. He had already planned it out. It's not cramped at all. Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao can share a room. I'll sleep in the living room. Don't you think that's just right? What's so great about it? The corners of her mouth twitched and she looked at him suspiciously. You're really willing to sleep in the living room? She had seen his king-sized bed before. Would he be willing to abandon his luxury and live in her small home? He looked at her meaningfully and smiled. I've even slept in a cave on a deserted island. Why would I mind sleeping in the living room? Xiaodong's mind instantly flashed with the scene of them being brought to the deserted island by Xiao Bao. Wifey, what other reasons do you have to object to? Tell me. Xiaodong rubbed her eyebrows. Actually, the biggest reason was old madam. However, since he said that he would solve it, she would believe him. He lowered his head and moved closer to her. So, can I stay here now? Xiaodong was defeated by him and nodded dejectedly. But I'm warning you. You're not allowed to enter my room. If Aunt finds out, you'll have to explain yourself. Yes, my dear wifey. He smiled and kissed her cheek. Just like that, Bailey Han shamelessly stayed there. His huge suitcase was stuffed to the brim. Other than a change of underwear, he didn't have many jackets. The only thing that occupied the space was a pile of books. Xiaodong picked one up and the corner of her mouth twitched. How to be a good father. She picked up another one, Sears Maternity Encyclopedia. She picked up another one, 280 Prenatal Education. She flipped through them again and again. They were all about pregnant women and their parents. When she picked up the last one, she almost vomited blood. The title was actually Encyclopedia of Women's Lives. Just how much does this guy want to know about women? She took a step back and distanced herself from him. She looked him up and down with a strange expression, her eyes revealing her suspicion of him. Bailey Han coughed awkwardly. He just wanted to know more about her and the baby in her belly. He had already missed the triplets' pregnancy, and he didn't want to miss this baby's pregnancy. The more he knew, the better he could take care of them. She put his clothes in her wardrobe and looked at their clothes hanging side by side. It was a strange feeling, as if he had slowly become part of her life. His toiletries were also placed in the bathroom. He even deliberately put their toothbrushes together, with their toothbrushes facing the same direction. Their towels were also placed at the same level, and their skincare products were placed next to hers. He spared no effort to show his presence and invade her space. At first, she wasn't used to it, but after looking at it for a long time, she began to feel that the scene was very harmonious. In the afternoon, his assistant, Lu Ziheo, came by with a stack of documents and a small box. Of course, Xiaodong didn't see anything. In the evening, Bailey Han took her and the children out for dinner. They found a restaurant with a good environment. When they arrived at the reserved room, Bailey Han didn't order for a long time. Xiaodong was curious, so he explained that there were guests coming. After waiting for a few more minutes, Xia Yun and Gao Mingyuan walked in under the guidance of the waiter. Bailey Han invited Xiaodong and Gao Mingyuan to order. The couple ordered a few dishes and said that it was enough. Bailey Han then ordered a few dishes that Xiaodong and the children liked to eat, then returned the menu to the waiter. After the dishes were all served, Bailey Han personally poured tea for Xiaodong and Gao Mingyuan. He stood up, raised his cup with both hands and said politely, "Aunt, Uncle, I know that you two can't drink, so today I'd like to propose a toast to you two. Thank you for all the hardships you've put in to raise Xiaodong, and thank you for all the care and love you've shown her all these years. You two treat Xiaodong like your own daughter, so I'm also your son-in-law. If I treat Xiaodong badly in the future, you don't have to be polite. Feel free to hit or scold me." Xiaodong didn't expect Bailey Han to say such words. She was happy and touched that he respected her family. Xia Yun originally gave Bailey Han 2 months of probation because she didn't completely trust him. She didn't expect him to be so sincere. He directly lowered his status and attitude in front of the old couple. She didn't want to make things difficult for him, so she reminded him to treat Xiaodong and the children well. Then she drank the cup of tea. Gao Mingyuan thought further than Xia Yun. He casually mentioned Bailey's family, and Bailey Han immediately promised that he would persuade his family. Only then did Gao Mingyuan drink the cup of tea with satisfaction. After this meal, Xia Yun and her husband had a better impression of Bailey Han. They thought that he was a young master of a big family and didn't know how to take care of people. They didn't expect him to take care of everyone so well. One moment he was boning fish for Xiao Bao, the next moment he was pouring drinks for Xiao Guai, and the next moment he was pouring soup for Xia Dong. From time to time he even poured tea for the old couple. Although he was busy, his movements were very elegant. His every movement showed that he was well educated. Xia Yun and her husband secretly nodded. After the meal, Bailey Han invited Xia Yun and her husband to the side hall to rest. The side hall was beautifully decorated. It was filled with flowers and balloons. On the floor there was a big heart shape made of red roses. The elegant sound of a violin came from somewhere. In front of his family, Bailey Han knelt on one knee in the heart-shaped rose. The three children excitedly huddled together. Daddy was asking for their hand in marriage. He was asking for their hand in marriage. Xia Dong was stunned. He, Bailey Han, was a high-spirited young master of a rich family. He was the CEO of a corporation. She really didn't expect him to kneel down and propose to her. She was at a loss as she watched him take out a red velvet box from his jacket pocket. When he opened it, a diamond-studded ring lay in the box. It shone charmingly under the light. Bailey Han looked into her eyes and said seriously, "Xia Dong, I, Bailey Han, will never propose to another woman in my life." He promised that in this life he would only love her. From the time he treated her family to dinner without telling her, until now when he proposed to her in front of her family, the emotions he brought to her continued to escalate. She bit her lip as tears glistened in her eyes. "Mommy, marry Daddy, marry Daddy?" Xiao Guai's tender voice sounded. "Mom, don't hesitate anymore." Xiao Bao also encouraged her. The LCD wall-mounted TV in front of Xia Dong suddenly turned on. A line of words slowly appeared on the screen. "Wifey, will you marry me? I will protect you for the rest of my life. I love your hubby." This man was cold on the outside but passionate on the inside. Xia Dong covered her mouth as tears flowed down her face. She walked to his side and stretched out her finger. She smiled with tears in her eyes. "Hubby, help me put the ring on." "Okay." Bailey Han's eyes were full of smiles as he carefully put the ring on her finger. The two hugged each other tightly. Xia Yun couldn't help but wipe her tears. She really hoped that Bailey Han could solve all the problems so that their family of 5 could reunite sooner. On the way home, Xia Dong sat in the front passenger seat with Xiao Guai in her arms. Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi sat in the back. Probably because they were tired from playing, the children closed their eyes and took a nap. Xiao Guai fell asleep immediately. Xia Dong lowered her voice and said, "I didn't expect you to be so romantic. You actually know how to get down on one knee and propose." She thought that at most he would put the ring on her finger when they were alone and threaten her with a few domineering words, and that would be it. "Eldest young master Bailey, you've traumatized her by forcing her into a marriage." Bailey Han's mouth twitched. He said calmly, "The Encyclopedia of Women's Lives tells me that women are creatures who like romance." Xia Dong's face darkened. He was indeed a man who was outwardly passionate. His words exposed his true nature. The car didn't drive to the neighborhood. Instead, it turned onto another road. Xia Dong hurriedly said, "We're going the wrong way. Take that way home." He chuckled. "You're not going the wrong way. I'll take you to a place." The car stopped at the beach. Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi in the back seat woke up. However, when they leaned against the window, they immediately understood that their father wanted to be romantic. They simply closed their eyes and continued to pretend to be asleep. Xia Dong carefully placed her daughter on the seat and covered her with a blanket before following Bailey Han out of the car. The sky was filled with stars. On the dark beach, the waves crashed against the sand, making crashing sounds. The sea breeze carried with it moist water vapor. It was a little cold. Xia Dong hugged her shoulders. Bailey Han took off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. "Just stand here. I'll be back soon." He ran to a spot about 10 meters away from the beach. With the help of the searchlight, Xia Dong saw that there were a bunch of rod-like things stuck in the ground in front of him. She saw him bending over and fiddling with them for a while. The thin fuse was ignited. It sizzled as it burned and then it made a few loud popping sounds. Like pearls rising into the sky, they bloomed brilliantly. The fireworks lit up the sky. The fireworks were dazzling and dazzling. After lighting all the fireworks, he ran to her side and held her shoulders. They looked at the bustling night scene together. The last firework formed the English word love in the sky. She lay on his chest and giggled. It's so old-fashioned. It's actually an English word. You have to pay the price for mocking me. His mesmerizing eyes stared at her lips with evil intentions. He lowered his head and moved closer to her. Just as he was about to kiss her, he suddenly heard the whispers of the two little rascals behind him. Xiao Bao's voice was heard. Xiao Yi, father's fireworks are so old-fashioned. Xiao Yi sighed. Xiao Bao, it's all my fault. I should have checked in advance. Xiao Bao clasped his hands. Ai Xiao Yi, we're so pitiful to have such a father. Welfare Hongcha 866. Chapter 185. Xiao Yi patted him on the shoulder. Xiao Bao, we can't dampen daddy's enthusiasm, even though romance also depends on talent. Xia Dong couldn't help but laugh. Bailey Han's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. What was going on now? Was he being despised by his wife and children? Clearly, the romance novels told him that setting off fireworks was a very romantic thing. The two little rascals were deliberately causing trouble. Bailey Han was very dissatisfied and was very annoyed. Xiao Bao stuck out his tongue. Xiao Yi, daddy is angry. Let's hurry back to the car and give them some private space. Xiao Yi nodded seriously. You're right. We can't be third wheels. Bailey Han's whole body was emitting cold air as he bared his teeth at the two little rascals. You've been third wheels for a long time, okay? The two little rascals covered their mouths and snickered as they ran back to the car. Xia Dong held his hand and laughed softly. Don't be angry. The fireworks are very beautiful. Bailey Han's belly full of anger instantly dissipated without a trace. He hugged her waist. After the proposal, I forgot something. What is it? He said seriously, kiss you? Actually, he was embarrassed in front of the child, aunt, and uncle. She blushed. Fortunately, it was night time and he couldn't see clearly. She tilted her head slightly and closed her eyes. She used her actions to express her wishes. His eyes were full of smiles as he lowered his head and finally kissed her lips as he wished. Unfortunately, he didn't taste it for long because the three little rascals were waiting for them in the car. When they returned to the car, Xiao Guai was already awake and giggling while hugging the blanket. Xia Dong carried her daughter and pinched her soft cheeks. Gigai, what are you giggling about? Xiao Guai pointed at the beach outside the window. The fireworks are so beautiful. Our daughter knows what's good for her. Bailey Han patted Xiao Guai's little head. Honey, buckle up. I'm going to drive. When they returned home, it was already past 10 o'clock. Xia Dong took her daughter to the master bathroom to take a bath, while Bailey Han took his two sons to the bathroom outside. The three of them soaked in the bathtub together as Bailey Han rubbed the backs of the little rascals. The scene was very heartwarming. Xiao Yi felt that it was very novel. In the villa, she had never taken a bath with daddy before. After Xia Dong and Xiao Guai finished showering, Xia Dong hugged her daughter and sat on the sofa, using a soft towel to wipe her hair. Every time she wiped her daughter's hair, she would feel a sharp pain in her heart when she saw tufts of hair falling off. Tonight was no exception. Although her movements were extremely gentle, a lot of hair still fell off. Suddenly, she heard Bailey Han's voice from the bathroom. Wifey, help us get our clothes. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Xia Dong put down the towel and carried her daughter to the side. She went back to the room to find Xiao Bao and Xiao Yi's clothes. Then she took Bailey Han's clothes from the closet and carried them to the bathroom door. She gently knocked on the door. I'll put the clothes on the chair by the door. Just as she was about to pull a chair over, the bathroom door suddenly opened. Bailey Han was bare-chested with a towel wrapped around his waist as he stood in front of her just like that. She averted her gaze, not daring to look at him, and handed the clothes over. When the three of them were dressed and came out of the bathroom, Xiao Guai had already fallen asleep in her arms. Her body seemed to be getting worse. She was easily tired and sleepy. Xia Dong was very worried. She put her daughter back on the bed and carefully covered her with the blanket. When she got up, she saw Bailey Han standing at the door. His hair was still a little wet and his expression was a little serious. When she came closer, he said in a low voice, Gigai's body is very weak. It's better to send her to the hospital as soon as possible. Xia Dong rubbed her eyebrows. I plan to send Xiao Guai to the hospital after Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao start school. Then I'll have more time to take care of her. There were still a few days before the kindergarten started school. Bailey Han put his arm around her shoulder and returned to her room. You don't have to work so hard. Don't forget that you still have me. Honey, you have to learn to rely on your man. He stroked her long hair. The fragrance of her hair softened his heart. He said gently, in the future, leave the matter of picking up the children to me. Xiao Guai will be taken care of by a professional nurse. You can rest at ease and take care of the baby. When the baby is born, Xiao Guai will also get better. She let him hold her in his arms and murmured, So there was such a person. Even if you didn't do anything, you would feel like you had the whole world in your arms. The emptiness in his heart was filled by her. The room was very quiet. Only the ticking of the clock could be heard. Xia Dong gradually felt sleepy. She pushed him in a daze. I'm sleepy. Go to sleep if you're sleepy. He carried her up and placed her on the bed. He lowered his head and kissed her forehead. Good night, honey. She was really too tired. She didn't even open her eyes. She murmured, He pinched her delicate little nose. His lips curved into a doting smile as he said softly, Little lazy kitten. Xia Dong had already laid out the foldable bed in the living room for him. It wasn't very comfortable for him to sleep on it with his height of more than 1.8 meters. It was a little restrictive. Her sweet smiling face kept flashing in his mind. He couldn't stop thinking about the comfortable feeling of her lying in his arms. Moreover, she was less than 10 meters away from him. After tossing and turning for more than an hour, the hour hand pointed to 12. He still didn't feel sleepy. In the end, he couldn't control himself and sneaked into her room quietly. He quietly lifted the blanket and laid down beside her. He gently pulled her into his embrace, and with her soft and fragrant body pressed against his chest, his entire body felt comfortable and he began to feel sleepy. Early the next morning, Bailey Han woke up. Xia Dong was lying in the crook of his arm. She was still fast asleep. Her hands were tightly clutching the clothes on his chest. The right shoulder strap of her spaghetti strap had slipped below her shoulder. Because she was curled up on her side, half of her soft peaks were exposed. There was also a deep cleavage that was faintly discernible. He suddenly felt a little thirsty. All the blood in his body rushed to his abdomen. He immediately had a reaction. It was a normal physiological reaction that men would have in the morning. His pants were a little tight. Sadly, Xia Dong woke up at this moment. She stared blankly at the handsome face in front of her. She was still a little confused. Han, why are you on my bed? Bailey Han quietly retreated a little. He lied without blushing or skipping a beat. Honey, you fell asleep last night. I carried you to the bed and then you held my hand and wouldn't let go. Xia Dong's eyes widened. She actually did such a thing? He coughed and unkindly pushed all the blame to her. I admit that I didn't have enough self-control. I couldn't resist your seduction and climbed into your bed. But don't worry, we were just sleeping. We didn't do anything else. Xia Dong didn't doubt his words at all. She really thought that she had raped him. She scratched her messy hair in annoyance. Forget about what happened last night. I won't do it again. This action of hers exposed even more of her chest. His burning gaze fell on her chest. She followed his gaze and immediately pulled the blanket over her chest. She said exasperatedly, You should leave now. He wanted to leave too, but now, his pants were even tighter. He deliberately dawdled to stall for time. He tried hard to suppress the heat in his heart, but that part of him was still sticking up disobediently. Hurry up and get off the bed. I want to change. Xia Dong was already embarrassed. Seeing him dawdling, she angrily pulled the blanket over him. Suddenly, his erect part of him barged into her line of sight. She saw that his pants were pushed up high. Her face was so red that it was about to bleed. She hugged the blanket and curled into a ball. She said softly, I'll lend you the bathroom. Bailey Han's face darkened. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Seeing her shy look, he couldn't help but tease her. He deliberately moved closer and blew hot air into her ear. You were the one who did that to me last night. Shouldn't you be responsible for taking it down? Xia Dong was embarrassed by his words. She felt even more that it was her fault. She stuttered, Then I'll use my hands, to help you. Bailey Han's face darkened. Where did you learn those things? She whimpered, From the calcium tablets in Japan. She had crazily taken remedial lessons in order to seduce him back then. You're not allowed to look at those things in the future. Bailey Han's face reddened. He coughed and bit her ear. If you want to look at them, I have to look at them with you. Bailey Han was satisfied to see her trembling all over. His wife was so cute when she was shy. She turned her face away, which was as red as an apple. She looked at him in disdain. Pervert! He happily pulled her cheek and kissed her lips. Then I'll only be lustful to you. Go away. Xia Dong covered her head with the blanket. She really wanted to find a hole to hide in. Bailey Han pulled the blanket over her head, open a crack to prevent her from suffocating herself. He laughed softly. I'll go out now. He was worried that if he didn't go out now, she would suffocate under the blanket. What a shy little thing. He couldn't be lazy anymore today. He had a meeting with the board of directors in the afternoon. After breakfast, he changed his clothes and walked out of the room with his briefcase. He was wearing a black suit and a white shirt. The simple style made him look elegant and handsome. He had a high nose bridge and a slightly hooked nose, adding a bit of coldness to his handsome face. His eyes were deep and wise. The morning sun shone through the window and shone on his body, softening the cold lines on his face. He looked at her with a smile on his lips. Wifey, help me with my tie. Add Jianghu 799. Chapter 186. Xia Dong smiled and took the tie from his hands. He leaned over and their faces were so close that they could almost feel each other's breath. Her slender and beautiful fingers deftly flipped over his chest. Bailey Han looked at the serious woman in front of him and the smile in his eyes became even brighter. He quickly lowered his head and kissed her cheek. She lowered her head guiltily. The children were still in the living room. Honey, I'm leaving. Bailey Han stroked her hair and looked up to wave to the three little guys in the living room. Babies, Daddy is going to the company. You guys stay at home and listen to Mommy. Got it, Daddy. If you don't leave now, you'll be late. Xiao Bao smiled mischievously. You're stupid. Daddy is the big boss. No one will ever say that he's late. Xiao Yi curled her lips. Wow, Daddy is so awesome. Xiao Guai's eyes sparkled. Bailey Han laughed. It felt so good to have a wife and children. After he went to the company, Xia Dong took care of the children at home. As school was about to start, she urged Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao to take out the summer homework left by the teacher. She wanted to check on the completion of the homework. Xiao Yi's homework was very neat and tidy. Her handwriting was also very beautiful. She did all the math correctly and didn't make any mistakes in her foreign language. The language teacher only left a few weekly notes and an essay. The essay's title was My Mother and Me. Xia Dong wanted to see the essay's content, but Xiao Yi snatched the homework from her hands with an unnatural blush on his little face. He raised his chin. You can't invade my privacy. Xia Dong raised her eyebrows in amusement. I just want to see if your essay is good. Humph, you can't see it anyway. He used so many words of praise in his essay. She saw it, it would be embarrassing. She stroked his head. All right, I won't see it. What a pity. Although Xiao Yi didn't reject her, he refused to call her mommy. She really wanted to know how he would talk about her in his essay. Xiao Bao's homework was a mess because he hadn't done it yet. Xia Dong rubbed her forehead. Xiao Bao, school starts the day after tomorrow and you haven't done your homework yet. What's the meaning of this? Xiao Bao shrugged indifferently and glanced at Xiao Yi's neat pile of homework. He said disdainfully, those things are nothing to me. I can finish them in the afternoon. All right, you can start now. I'll check your progress tonight. If you can't finish it, I'll make fun of you for a month in the name of boasting. Xia Dong held his young shoulders and pressed him in front of the desk. Don't worry, I'll start now. Don't disturb me here, okay? The little guy had a terrible temper. In the afternoon, the driver, Uncle Wang, came with 2 large suitcases. One was filled with Xiao Yi's clothes and the other was, of course, Bailey Han's. Xia Dong took out their clothes from the suitcases and arranged them in the closet. It was already past 4 o'clock. She washed her hands and went to the kitchen to make some simple and delicious purple potato balls. She called the 3 children to the dining room to eat. Everyone was given a small portion to prevent them from being too full and refusing to eat dinner. After tea time, Xiao Bao returned to his room to continue working on his summer homework. Xiao Yi sat on the carpet with his little notebook and was fiddling with something. Xiao Guai lay beside him and watched, letting out a crisp laugh. Brother Yi, this is so fun. Xia Dong couldn't help but look up at the laptop screen. It turned out that he was playing a game. Gigai, do you want to play? I'll teach you. Xiao Yi now enjoyed the feeling of having siblings. Okay, Brother Yi. How about this? The two little guys leaned their heads against each other, whispering and laughing from time to time. The atmosphere was very warm and happy. However, they didn't know that a crisis was slowly approaching them. Hospital. It was past 9 o'clock at night and Su Xingchen was the only one left in the VIP ward. She was playing with her laptop out of boredom. Her face had gone through a second plastic surgery and the gauze on her face hadn't been removed. Under the light from the laptop screen she looked a little creepy. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. She thought it was the nurse, so she didn't raise her head and said impatiently, "Come in." She heard the crisp sound of footsteps and saw a tall figure standing in front of her bed. Su Xingchen felt that something was wrong. She raised her head and her eyes were filled with surprise. "Godfather, you've finally come to see me." The person who came was her godfather. He was wearing a black trench coat and looked to be in his 40s, much younger than his actual age. He had a handsome face and there was a sense of calmness and experience between his brows. In his deep eyes, there was an imperceptible shrewdness. The corner of his lips hooked up and his smile was very gentle. "Baby, your mommy-daddy is watching over you in the hospital every day. It's not convenient for me to come and see you." "I know, Godfather. I don't blame you." Su Xingchen touched her face that was wrapped in gauze and said self-deprecatingly, "I've become ugly now. I'm worried that I'll scare you." Her godfather sat by her bed and put his arm around her shoulders. "Baby, don't talk nonsense. No matter what you become, Godfather won't be scared." "Then, Godfather, will you still love me?" She looked at him carefully. "Of course I will. Silly girl, don't forget that I'm your godfather." Her godfather rubbed her hair lovingly. He paused and asked in a low voice, "I had someone send you the antidote. Is it useful?" Su Xingchen nodded. "It's quite useful. When my drug addiction kicks in, it's not that painful anymore." A few days after she was disfigured and hospitalized, her godfather secretly sent someone to send her a bottle of antidote. He said that it could suppress the drug addiction in her body and let her take it when the drug addiction kicks in. "That's good. Baby, don't worry. Godfather won't let those who hurt you off." Her godfather's sharp eyes hid a cold, murderous aura. "And I believe in Godfather." Su Xingchen hugged his arm and acted coquettishly. "Godfather, did you come to see me today for something?" The smile on his godfather's face disappeared. "Baby, I have two news. One is good news and the other is bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" Su Xingchen's fingers tightened. "Let's hear the bad news first." Her godfather sighed. "The bad news is that the man you like has already married Xia Dong." Su Xingchen burst into tears. Her godfather comforted her. "Baby, don't be sad. There are many good men in the world. Godfather can help you find 10 or even 100 of them." Su Xingchen sobbed. "Actually, I already knew that I had no hope. I lost my chastity and my face was disfigured. He definitely won't want me, but I'm still so sad. Godfather, I've liked Brother Han since I was very, very young." Her godfather patted her shoulder and comforted her. I know. Girl, don't cry in." She wiped her tears. "Since I was young, Brother Han only had Su Yunqian in his eyes. He never looked at me more than a few times. When I grew up, he fell in love with Xia Dong. Godfather, tell me, how am I worse than them?" "You're not bad at all. You're better than them. It's Bailey Han who can't see how good you are. Girl, don't cry. Godfather will tell you a piece of good news, okay?" She sobbed pitifully. "Okay, then tell me. What's the good news?" "The good news is that Bailey Han and Xia Dong are living together." "How is that good news?" Su Xingchen interrupted him and cried even more sadly. "Baby, let me finish." Her godfather patted her shoulder helplessly. "Recently, I've been secretly monitoring them. I want to find a loophole and avenge you. These 2 days, I finally found out that Bailey's old madam doesn't like Xia Dong and forced her to leave Bailey Han. And Bailey Han married Xia Dong behind the old madam's back. Say, if this matter is exposed by the media and reaches the old madam's ears, won't there be a huge uproar?" Su Xingchen gradually stopped sobbing. Her eyes that were still wet with tears emitted a cold light. "Godfather, you're right. Not only must we let the old madam know, but we must also let Su Yunqian know. Su Yunqian definitely won't let Xia Dong off. Not only that, there's also Mika Kito. Although he returned to Japan, I believe he's still paying attention to Xia Dong's situation. When he returns to China, do you think he'll agree to Xia Dong marrying Bailey Han?" Su Xingchen bit her lip. "Then will Mika Kito harm Brother Han?" Her godfather sighed. "Baby, they've already caused you so much trouble. Why are you still thinking about that man? Let them deal with their own grudges. All we're doing is adding fuel to the fire. Su Xingqian gritted her teeth and struggled for a long time. But when she thought about how she was now neither human nor ghost and how Bailey Han could no longer fall in love with her, she finally made up her mind and nodded. Her godfather comforted her and said, "Baby, don't worry. I'll use this opportunity to make Mika Keto pay the price." Xiaodong did not expect trouble to come so quickly. The next morning, after Bailey Han said goodbye to his wife and children, he was about to go to the company. Just as he opened the door, countless lights flashed in front of him. A group of reporters surrounded him and asked all sorts of questions. "Mr. Bailey, I heard that you and Miss Xiaodong got married. Did you get married so quickly because Miss Xia is pregnant with your child? Mr. Bailey, did you break up with Miss Su because you fell in love with Miss Xia? Did Miss Xia get pregnant before or after you broke up with Miss Su? Miss Xia, aren't you Mika Keto's fiancée? Why did you suddenly marry Mr. Bailey? Does Mr. Beitang know about your marriage?" Sharp questions came one after another, catching Xiaodong off guard. Bailey Han was calm. He opened his arms and stopped the reporters who came forward. He protected Xiaodong and let her go back to the room. He avoided the reporters' questions, closed the door with a bang, and squeezed out of the crowd of reporters. With a cold expression, Bailey Han glanced at the group of reporters and said coldly, "I don't care which newspaper or magazine you are from. If anyone dares to say anything, I, Bailey Han, will immediately make sure that they lose their jobs. They won't even be able to say another word." The reporters were stunned. They knew how powerful Bailey's family was, so naturally, they did not dare to confront him head-on. There were also a few who were not afraid of death and secretly recorded Bailey Han's threats. Of course, whether they were really not afraid of death or if they had ulterior motives and pretended to be reporters, this was worth pondering. Bailey Han entered the elevator and called Xiaodong. He told her not to worry and that he would send people to deal with the group of reporters outside the door. Soon, two cold-faced men in black suits blocked the entrance of Xiaodong's apartment building. They snatched the cameras from the hands of the reporters and took the memory cards inside. There was a lot of noise downstairs. Many people in the residential building heard the noise and poked their heads out to watch the show. Xiaodong was also very anxious at home. Xiao Yi held a small notebook and browsed through the news of the day. She suddenly found that Daddy and Mommy's matter had already spread on the internet. Her little face immediately became cold. If this matter became known, it would be impossible to hide it from great-grandma. She would definitely make trouble for Mommy. "Xiao Yi, what's wrong?" Xiaodong saw Xiao Yi's dark face staring at the computer screen and asked with concern. Xiao Yi slammed the notebook shut and said, "Nothing, Mommy. I want to eat dessert. Can you make it for me?" Xiaodong was stunned. Then she smiled happily and hugged him tightly. "Xiao Yi, you just called me Mommy? I'm so happy." Xiao Yi's little face flushed red and he awkwardly avoided her gaze. He just wanted to divert her attention. He didn't expect that he would subconsciously call her Mommy. "Xiao Yi, can you call me Mommy again?" She rubbed his cheeks and happily teased him, temporarily forgetting about the troubles outside. His face darkened. "You don't rub my face." Why did she like to rub his face like second uncle? Xiaodong smiled. "If you call me Mommy again, I won't rub it." He snorted and puffed up his cheeks like a cute little bun. "Call me Mommy." "Mommy?" His voice was pitifully soft, but Xiaodong still heard him clearly. She gave him a loud kiss on the cheek. Baby, Mommy is so happy." His rosy cheeks flushed red. The mother and son were enjoying the happiness of a family reunion, but the outside world was already in chaos. Su Yunqian was still dreaming of making Bailey Han change his mind when she suddenly found out from the internet that Bailey Han and Xiaodong had secretly gotten married. Moreover, Bailey Han had even brought Xiao Yi to Xiaodong's house. She thought she had seen wrongly and carefully read the headlines 3 times. In the end, she rolled her eyes and almost vomited blood from anger. They actually got married. Damn it, how did things develop so quickly? What should she do now? Bailey's old residence was already in chaos. The old madam was so angry that she fainted and called the family doctor for emergency treatment. The first thing the old madam said when she woke up was to call Bailey Han and ask him to come home. When Bailey Han received the call from the servant, he was on his way to the old residence. He knew that once things got out of hand, the first person he had to appease was the old madam. Fortunately, he was already prepared for a war. Come and see. Songshu 566. Chapter 187. As soon as Bailey Han stepped into the living room, he could feel the anger of his family. Old Madam, Bai Jinxiu, and Bailey Xiong assumed the posture of a three-way trial. Everyone was furious and a storm was brewing. He looked calm and said frankly, "Grandma, Mom, Dad, Xiaodong and I are married." The old madam used her walking stick to poke the floor fiercely, her eyes burning with anger. "Bailey Han, you bastard. You hid such an important matter like your marriage from us. Do you still have us elders in your eyes?" Bailey Han said calmly, "I'm here to clarify this matter. Grandma, tell me first, why do you hate Xiaodong so much?" Old Madam said angrily, "I won't allow you to marry Xiaodong not only because I hate her, but also because she doesn't deserve to enter the Bailey family." The corner of Bailey Han's lips curled up in a mocking smile. "Grandma, don't talk about all that nonsense. What do you mean by not being of equal status? I already know everything that happened 5 years ago." The three elders were shocked, thinking that he had recovered his memory. Bai Jinxiu said anxiously, "Han, since you've recovered your memory, do you have a headache again? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Seeing his mother's anxiety, Bailey Han felt a little guilty. He said in a gentle tone, "Mom, I'm fine and I didn't remember anything from the past. However, I've already investigated what happened 5 years ago. Grandma, you've all misunderstood Xiaodong." Bailey Han learned from Ahu's investigation that 5 years ago, Old Madam knew that Xiaodong had successfully stolen a child and helped her keep the child. She even adopted her as her god-granddaughter so that she could enter and leave the Bailey family freely. When he did something overboard and almost caused Xiaodong to have a miscarriage, Old Madam forced him to take Xiaodong to Bali to relax. All this showed that Old Madam still cared about Xiaodong and liked her very much. Then why did the Old Madam suddenly change her attitude and hate Xiaodong so much? Bailey Han thought for a while and finally came to a conclusion. There must have been some misunderstanding between the Old Madam and Xiaodong. Madam Dowager snorted coldly. "Misunderstanding? What misunderstanding? She is a vain woman. Back then, she deliberately got close to you and got pregnant. I wanted to take pity on her and let her give birth to the child. But in the end, she hooked up with Mika Kito and eloped with him to Japan. She even caused you to get into a car accident. Now that she has given birth to Mika Kito's child, why is she still bothering you? What right does such a fickle woman have to marry into the Bailey's family?" Bailey Han finally understood what kind of misunderstanding the old madam had about Xiaodong. He frowned and explained one thing at a time. "Grandma, when Xiaodong left China back then, she did not elope with Mika Kito. 5 years ago she was framed and the scandal was all over the place. She wanted to ask me for help to solve it, but she was kidnapped on the way. Those people not only wanted to abort the child in her womb, but they also wanted to humiliate her. Fortunately, Mika Kito arrived and saved her life. Xiaodong knew that someone wanted to harm her, so she asked Mika Kito to hide in Japan. The old madam did not expect this at all. She was stunned for a few seconds and retorted, "Even so, why did she stay in Japan? It's obvious that she didn't want to give the child to the Bailey's family." Bailey Han was helpless. "Grandma, you're also a mother. Why can't you understand Xiaodong's feelings as a mother? She did have some selfish motives, but she was not vain. As for the other things, I can explain them." The old madam said angrily, "Fine, tell me. I want to hear your explanation." Bailey Han rubbed his forehead. "I already have some memories of the accident. It has nothing to do with Xiaodong. I was careless and didn't see the truck in front of me, so I crashed into it. Xiaodong didn't come back from Japan to pester me, but..." As he said this, he hesitated. Should he tell the family that Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai were also his biological children? If he didn't tell them, they would continue to misunderstand. But if he told them that he did not discuss it with Xiaodong, she might get angry again. The old madam was anxious and angry. "Why did she come back to China? Tell us." Bailey Han glanced at the three elders. They all had an expression that said, "If you don't explain it clearly, don't think about it." So he frowned and decided to tell the truth. "Grandma, back then Xiaodong was pregnant with triplets. You took away Xiao Yi, but you didn't know that she later gave birth to Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. So Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai are actually my children too." Ignoring the shocked expressions of his family members, he continued to drop the second bombshell. "Xiao Guai has aplastic anemia. The only way to save her is for Xiaodong to give birth to a child with the same genes as her, then extract the newborn's umbilical cord blood for a transplant. This is the reason why Xiaodong wants to come back to China." The old madam held her forehead and almost fainted again. Bai Jinxiu quickly patted her back, and Bailey Xiong poured her a cup of tea. When the old madam caught her breath, Bailey Xiong asked, "If Xiao Guai is really your child, Xia Dong could have just come to us for help if she wanted to save Xiao Guai. Why did she have to come up with so many tricks? I think she's lying again." Back then, Grandma used the lives of Xia Dong's aunt and uncle as a threat to take away Xiao Yi. How do you expect Xia Dong to say that? You want to wait until you know the truth before taking away her other two children? Bailey Han took out a test report. "I know you won't believe what I'm saying, but this is Xiao Bao's and my paternity test report." This test report was provided by Xiao Bao. At that time he found out that Xiao Bao had known that he was his daddy for a long time and misunderstood that he had abandoned him and his mother. That was why he had been targeting him. The old madam took the test report. It stated that the possibility of the two of them being related by blood was 99%. Silence. A deathly silence. After nearly 10 minutes, the old madam finally calmed down from the huge shock. She sorted out her thoughts and asked with a gloomy expression, "You said that Xia Dong and Mika Keto have nothing to do with each other. What about the previous reports? Isn't she engaged to Mika Keto?" That was all nonsense written by the media. Her engagement to Mika Keto is also fake. Before deciding to clear Xia Dong's name, Bailey Han had asked Yi Siki about the inside story. "Xia Dong got close to me because she wanted to save Xiao Guai. She didn't want to ruin my relationship with Yin Qian, so she deliberately pretended that she was engaged to Mika Keto." The old madam immediately understood after Bailey Han's explanation. It turned out that he had already had feelings for Xia Dong back then. How is Xiao Guai's condition? Although the old madam didn't like Xia Dong, Xiao Guai was still Bailey's child, so she still cared about him. His condition isn't ideal. He needs surgery as soon as possible. The atmosphere froze again. The prerequisite for the surgery was that Xia Dong had to give birth to the baby. Everyone knew what this meant. The old madam was now in a dilemma. She could either agree to the marriage between Bailey Han and Xia Dong in order to save Xiao Guai, or she could resolutely disagree and cause the death of her own great-granddaughter. Bai Jinxiu was still on Su Yunqian's side. Under these circumstances, she definitely wouldn't support Bailey Han. Bailey Xiong, on the other hand, was moved by compassion. He advised, "Mom, since Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai are both our children, it's not a good thing for them to lead a wandering life. It's not good for our family. Since they're already married, why don't we just admit it?" However, the old madam's prejudice against Xia Dong had been deeply rooted in her heart for 5 years. Even if the misunderstanding was resolved, she still felt uncomfortable. She clenched her teeth and refused to let go. Bailey Han saw that Bailey Xiong was already on his side. He smiled and said, "Dad, in a few months you'll have another grandson." Bailey Xiong was stunned. Could it be that Xia Dong is pregnant? Bailey Han smiled. If she gives birth to this baby, Xiao Guai will be saved. The situation was getting out of hand. The old madam was already on the verge of wavering. It was rare for his son to smile at him. Bailey Xiong was even more determined to stand on his side. He tried to persuade the old madam, "Mom, you don't want the baby to be called an illegitimate child as soon as he's born, right? I've seen both Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. They're both smart children. Don't you always say that the family is too small? It's too lonely to have only one child, Xiao Yi. If he has siblings to accompany him, he'll grow up happier. It's a good thing for him and for our family. Don't you think so? The more children one had, the more blessings one would have." The older generation had this concept. The old madam was no exception. She was moved by Bailey Xiong's words. After a long silence, she sighed heavily. Bailey Han's expression did not change. He was calm and indifferent, but his heart was beating like a drum. He didn't know what kind of answer she would give. "Since you've already registered your marriage, then so be it." The old madam paused and said, "However, you have to move to the old mansion. Xia Dong is Bailey's daughter-in-law, so she has to behave like a daughter-in-law." Although Bai Jinxiu was unhappy that the old madam agreed to their marriage so easily, she felt much better after hearing the old madam's last sentence. She knew that the old madam was going to set rules for Xia Dong. Bailey Han also knew. He frowned. "Grandma, Xia Dong is pregnant now. She has to take care of 3 children. What? You're starting to feel sorry for her?" The old madam snorted and said, "When she moves in, there are so many servants at home. Are you afraid that she'll be tired? So what if she's pregnant? When I was pregnant with your father, I went to the battlefield with your grandfather." Bailey Han still wanted to say something, but Bailey Xiong coughed heavily and said, Han, hurry up and thank your grandma. Since she's going to be our daughter-in-law, she has to be presentable. Your grandma comes from a scholarly family and is knowledgeable. She won't be happy if ordinary people ask her for advice. Bailey Han knew that his father was speaking up for him and was worried that he would annoy his grandma. He pursed his lips and said, Grandma, then I'll thank you on behalf of Xia Dong. That's more like it. The old madam muttered a few words. She still felt uncomfortable. Move in 2 days. Get rid of the rumors outside quickly. It's annoying to hear them. Bailey Han said faintly, I'll take care of it. The Dragon Gang's subordinates were not idle. Bailey Han had just walked out of the old mansion when Ah Bao called to report the situation. Eldest young master, 2 of the reporters who blocked Madam's door were impersonators from the underworld. They even recorded you threatening them and planned to release it to the public. Bailey Han got into the car and said coldly, Who do they work for? Old K. Isn't Old K dead? Why would the Flame Gang have the time to do this? They're probably being used. Those 2 said that someone gave them 100,000 yuan to gather the reporters and cause trouble at Madam's door. Who's the mastermind behind this? Have you found out? Ah Bao couldn't help but wipe his sweat. No. It said that the other party used a public phone to contact them. They've never met. Bailey Han frowned. The first person he thought of was Su Xingchen, who had always been against Xia Dong. However, Su Xingchen was now disfigured and hospitalized. Moreover, the police were monitoring him from afar. He shouldn't act rashly. He was silent for a moment. Ah Bao, check Godfather's whereabouts and see who he's been in contact with recently. In the last kidnapping case, Godfather had intentionally or unintentionally protected Su Xingchen. He had reason to believe that the relationship between Su Xingchen and Godfather was not simple. Yes. Check again. Shanghao Group's recent business rivals. It could also be a business rival that was unfavorable to him. Yes. Bailey Han didn't go to the office. He called Lu Zihao and gave him some instructions. Then he drove directly to Xia Dong's place. He had something important to do now. When he went upstairs, he bumped into people who lived in the same building. Everyone looked at him strangely. He didn't care at all. His expression was still cold. He pressed the doorbell. Xia Dong opened the door for him. Although she was smiling, he could see the worry and fear in her eyes. He hugged her and kissed her forehead. He said softly, Honey, don't worry. I'll take care of those things. Now, I have good news to tell you. She pushed him and motioned for him to let go. The child was still in the living room. After he let go, she asked, What good news? He smiled. Grandma has agreed to our marriage. Really? You're not lying to me? She widened her eyes in disbelief. Of course it's true. Little fool, your husband is so capable. Why would I lie to you? Bailey Han raised his eyebrows proudly. He had an expression that said, Praise me quickly. Xia Dong still couldn't believe it. She covered her mouth and widened her eyes. She didn't say anything. Little Treasure and Little Wingzy, who were playing in the living room, looked at each other and grinned at the same time. They laughed happily. Their family could finally reunite openly. Beauty novel Songshu 566. Chapter 188. The 2 little guys gave Bailey Han a thumbs up. Bailey Han lifted his chin, indicating for them to hurry back into the house and not be the third wheel. The 2 of them smiled evilly, hugged their little notebooks and ran back into the room like a wisp of smoke. After a while, Xia Dong muttered, Han, pinch me. I think I'm dreaming. He couldn't bear to pinch her. His lips curled into a mischievous smile. He lowered his head and kissed her lips, telling her directly that she wasn't dreaming. When he let go of her, the 2 of them were already panting. She lay on his chest and asked foolishly, Why would old madam accept me? I thought she hated me to death. He kissed her hair lovingly and his voice was a little hoarse. Silly, you should call her Grandma now. Grandma had some misunderstandings about you and I've cleared up these misunderstandings. Of course she has no reason to hate you anymore. Moreover, you've given birth to 3 precious children for our family. Dad, Mom, Grandpa and Grandma want to accept you because of the children. Xia Dong was still in a daze. For a long while she still felt that it was unreal. She secretly pinched herself. But it really hurt. Only then did she believe that she wasn't dreaming. Her nose twitched and her tears couldn't help but flow out. However, she forced them not to fall. Choking, she said, "Ahan, I'm so happy. Xiao Yi called me mommy this afternoon, and your family is willing to accept me. Thank you for everything you've done for me." He hugged her tightly and teased with a smile, "Wifey, if you're really grateful to me, call me hubby." She looked up, her eyes glistening with tears. She said each word seriously, "Hubby?" He kissed her cheek and chuckled. "That's nice to hear." She lowered her eyes, and her shy look made his heart as soft as cotton candy. When she calmed down, he smiled and said, "Wifey, dress up and change into something beautiful. I'm going to take you somewhere." "Where are we going?" "It's a secret first." He smiled mysteriously. Xiaodong didn't know what he was up to, but seeing how happy he was, she guessed that it couldn't be anything bad. She was wearing a white silk dress, low-cut and backless, which outlined her perfect figure. However, Bailey Han's face darkened as he asked her to change into another one. Xiaodong looked at herself in the mirror. "What? I think it looks good," Siki said. When she wore this dress, she looked noble and elegant. She also thought it looked good. Bailey Han's entire body was almost emitting cold air. "There are too many exposed areas, you can only wear it for me to see." He did not want to let other men feast their eyes on her. She giggled. "So you're jealous? Then I'll change to a more conservative one." Bailey Han gritted his teeth. "I'm just jealous. In the future, when you go out, you're not allowed to wear skirts that are shorter than your knees, revealing your back, chest, and shoulders." "You might as well just let me go out in my long shirt and trousers." Xiaodong's face darkened. He didn't even allow her to show her shoulders. This was too much. Bailey Han touched his chin. "That's a good idea." Xiaodong vomited blood and walked out with her hands on the wall. Xiaodong took 2 or 3 dresses that she thought were more conservative and compared them to her body. Bailey Han shook his head and rejected them all. She was completely at her wits' end. Bailey Han suddenly grabbed her wrist. "Let's go out for a while." "Why? I haven't chosen my clothes yet." "You don't have to choose. Someone will help you choose later." Bailey Han dragged Xiaodong all the way to the busiest district in the city. With his arm around her waist, the two of them took the elevator directly to the 12th floor. Xiaodong's eyes were glued to the magnificent studio. After 5 years, she did not expect to be dragged to the studio of the internationally renowned stylist Anson. Anson actually still remembered her. There was a gentle smile on his handsome face. "Miss Xia, oh no, I should call you Mrs. Bailey now. I haven't seen you for 5 years and you've become even more charming." "Anson, I didn't expect you to still remember me. You're still as charming as before." Xiaodong smiled as she reached out her hand and politely shook his hand. Bailey Han calmly put his arm around Xiaodong's shoulder and declared his ownership. "Anson, help my wife style. The clothes can't be too revealing. They can't show her back, shoulders, or low cut. Young master, you're deliberately making things difficult for me. If she wanted to look beautiful now, how could she wrap herself so tightly?" Bailey Han raised his eyebrows proudly. "If you can't do it, I can find someone else." Anson held his forehead. "Aren't you asking me to ruin my reputation?" "Forget it, I'll listen to you." "Mrs. Bailey, this way please." Anson had a bitter smile on his face. Xiaodong actually felt like they were in the same boat. He sat down in the seat that Anson had designated and said sympathetically, "Anson, I will remember your great kindness in my heart." Anson laughed heartily. He suddenly understood why Bailey Han liked this woman. She was beautiful, elegant, humorous, and witty. She exuded a mature charm that was no less than those female stars he had seen. An hour later, Xiaodong walked out of the fitting room with the help of Anson's assistant. She was wearing a champagne-colored silk V-neck dress. Fortunately, it wasn't a deep V-neck, which barely met Bailey Han's requirements. Her hair was tied up, which made the lines of her neck even more charming. Her waist was perfectly cinched, and her shoulders and waist were decorated with crystals and broken diamonds. The dress swayed and fell to the ground, which made her exude an elegant and ethereal temperament. Bailey Han noticed that she was wearing a platinum necklace around her neck. Although it wasn't shiny enough, it complemented the dress well. He had also changed his clothes. He was wearing a white suit with exquisite facial features. Under his sword-like eyebrows, the bridge of his nose was proud and handsome. He was God's perfect masterpiece. Everything was so similar to 5 years ago. The only difference was that they were now husband and wife. She looked at him and smiled lightly. He walked closer to her and held her arm. He whispered, The dress is cinched at the waist. Did it press on you and the baby? She smiled. No, it's just the right size. When the assistant helped her change her clothes, he even said that the dress seemed to be specially designed for her. Anson raised his eyebrows proudly. How is it? Are you satisfied? Bailey Han raised his eyebrows. Your skills are average. Fortunately, my wife is beautiful. You can get full marks with just a casual dress-up. Anson was furious. This guy forgot about his friends when he had a wife. Even if he wanted to please his wife, he shouldn't step on his friends. This was too much. Xia Dong smiled and her eyes curved charmingly. Anson, don't listen to his nonsense. Your skills are definitely worth 120 points. Bailey Han said seriously, Wifey, the full marks are definitely 150 points. No, the full marks are 100 points. The other 20 points are bonus points. Xia Dong glared at him. Her charming eyes naturally revealed a flirtatious temperament. Bailey Han's heart fluttered and he held her waist. He didn't want others to see her beauty anymore. He wanted to hide her at home. After getting into the car, Bailey Han didn't drive home. Instead, he drove to the hotel that Lu Zihao had booked. Xia Dong was worried about the children. Bailey Han comforted her. I've already called the butler. He'll take care of the children. Xia Dong's lips curved into a smile. Hubby, you're so thoughtful. This was the first time she had taken the initiative to call him hubby. Her husband had pleased Bailey Han. Every pore on her body felt comfortable. The car stopped at the entrance of the hotel. Looking at the reporters surrounding the car and the flashing lights, Xia Dong was a little surprised. She still didn't know what Bailey Han was planning to do. Bailey Han held her hand and smiled gently. Wifey, don't be afraid. I'm here. She looked into his deep and bright eyes. The uneasiness and nervousness in her heart gradually dissipated. She held his hand and smiled confidently. I'm not afraid because you're here. She believed in him. This kind of trust made his heart tremble. It turned out that being trusted by the person he loved was a very fulfilling thing. He could imagine what kind of uproar it would cause when the two of them appeared at the same time. There were flashing lights all around them and the sound of shutters clicking could be heard. After the car door opened, Bailey Han bent over to get out of the car. The reporters immediately crowded over and the bodyguard stepped forward to block them. Lu Zihao stood beside Bailey Han and faced the media. He smiled and said, Friends from the media, please be patient. In 15 minutes, our CEO will hold a press conference in the banquet hall on the second floor of the hotel. Everyone please enter first. If you have any questions you can ask them later. The reporters were still unwilling to leave. It seemed that they wanted to wait for Xia Dong to come out. Bailey Han looked straight ahead and focused on the person in the car. Wifey, are you ready? Xia Dong nodded. She smiled and placed her hand in his palm. She elegantly and calmly walked out of the car. The sound of shutters was everywhere, but no one stepped forward to ask a question. Surrounded by the reporters, Xia Dong held onto Bailey Han's arm and walked elegantly and confidently into the press conference. Although this press conference was prepared under Bailey Han's urgent orders, the venue was not sloppy in the slightest. All the reporters from the major media outlets were invited to be present. As the host, Lu Zihao first expressed his gratitude to the reporters for being present. Then he handed the right to speak to Bailey Han. Bailey Han glanced at the packed reporters below the stage. His handsome face was as cold as ever. He said calmly, Thank you all for being here. Today, in front of the media, I will explain a few things. If you have any questions you can ask after I'm done. As long as it is within reason, I will answer them one by one. The audience was very quiet. No one interrupted his speech. Bailey Han glanced at Xia Dong. He smiled and said, Xia Dong and I fell in love 5 years ago. However, due to some misunderstanding she left China for Japan. I had an accident and lost my memory. Just like that, we were separated for 5 years. It wasn't until recently that I found out the truth and got her back. Hongcha 866, that you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.